You were correct. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the East Point Planning Commission for March 2nd, 2023. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Broll,
Present.
Mr. Lalonde,
Here.
Mr. Lubeck,
Here.
Ms. Moody,
Here.
Ms. Julinski here, and Chairman DeHaan.
Here. This evening too, and if we can, when we are speaking, please move closer to the microphone. I did actually have a couple residents say that they couldn't hear when they were watching online. So, all right, moving on to approval of the agenda. May I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second. We have motion and support. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Lubeck,
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde,
Yes.
Mr. Broll,
Yes.
Ms. Moody,
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Chairman DeHaan.
Yes. Moving on to the first hearing of the public. You have 3 minutes to speak. If you wish to speak on one of the public hearing items, we ask that you wait for that public hearing. Otherwise, you are free to say whatever you wish. So the public hearing is open. Does anybody wish to be heard? Please write your name on the piece of paper that should be on the podium.
Excuse me, Chair?
Yes.
No, never mind. All is good.
Okay.
Gary Myron, East Point resident. Talking about the rope lights. Did some driving around. I got a list. I have 19 businesses. And addresses. I did 9 Mile and Gratiot. I did not do Kelly, 10 Mile and 8 Mile. I should have that done by the council meeting. And that's about all I have to say is they're kind of increasing everywhere. Roseville only has a couple. The other cities only have a few. We're starting to get a lot more. And just figured, well, nobody kind of has time to do it at night with the city, so I took care of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Myron. Does anybody else wish to be heard? Please write your name on the piece of paper at the podium, please.
Okay, now, what I'm going to speak on is that medical marijuana facility going up. Can I speak on that?
I mean, we usually would like it if you speak during the public hearing when we speak about this,
Okay.
but,
Well, I didn't hear anybody give any subject.
oh, yeah, that will be during the public hearing. That will actually be in a couple minutes here. Does anybody else wish to be heard? Please write your name on the piece of paper, please. You have 3 minutes.
Karen Morajan, East Point resident. So the businesses in East Point, they need to be good neighbors to the homeowners. And there's one particular business that I want to say they probably have a good 100, if not more, rental houses in East Point, and that's Great Lakes Renaissance Property. They are horrible to work with. They've had a tenant who has, for over 3 years, engaged in harassment. Her trash ending up on my property, front yard, backyard, waking me up at night, keeping me up at night, harassing me, stalking me. You can't even talk to this tenant without her using assaultive, just vulgar, offensive language that is absolutely sickening and uncalled for. She's proven herself to clearly be mentally unstable. The police should not have to bear the burden when Great Lakes refuses to take any responsibility. The police department offered mediation twice with the tenant. She refused. And I get it. Nobody can force you into mediation. It's voluntary. As of yesterday, that was the 3rd time I've requested mediation with Great Lakes. They refused to. They are well aware of all of their tenants' violent, aggressive, assaultive, nuisance conduct. They've done nothing. If you look at the court docket, I invite everyone to pull up Great Lakes Renaissance properties under the docket for 38th District Court and see how much they clog up the court docket with their tenants. So it's not just me as a homeowner and that tenant. There's clearly a huge problem with Great Lakes, and it's clogging the docket. And they allow a 500 credit score. What do you think that's going to attract as tenants? The worst of the worst. Something needs to be done. We have senior neighbors in their 70s, in their 80s. They don't need that kind of nonsense going on. Great Lakes is not being a good neighbor. And if you're dealing with businesses, something needs to be done. They need to be held accountable. They cannot bear this, just shun their responsibility and refuse to give the address of the true owner of the property that on the city BSA online shows California, but they don't exist. I had to reach out to the California Secretary of State and the Licensing Bureau. They're like, we've never heard of this company. The address doesn't exist. So that means they've provided a false address to the city. So if you have to take legal action against the true owner, you're going to go to BSA online to pull up the true owner's address. Well, it's a false address. So I'm asking you to hold Great Lakes accountable. There's no reason for them to be such a bad neighbor. They just ignore everything, even though I've given them concrete proof. I know, time's up. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Seeing none, we will close that first hearing of the public. Moving on to approval of the minutes. May I have a motion from somebody to approve the minutes of January 19th? However, there does need to be one change. I noticed the very header, it says minutes of the regular meeting. That should be minutes of the special meeting.
Did we not approve that last meeting? I thought we approved the 19th.
It's on here, and I guess I'm assuming that we did not. I thought we did too, but it was on here, and I'm trusting city.
We already approved it. Yeah.
Can we find out? Or should we table this for another meeting?
I recall Planning Commission tabling the January 19th minute.
Is it because somebody wasn't here, maybe?
I'm not sure the reasoning.
Mr. Chair, I believe it was tabled as well. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm just going off of memory. I do recall some type of discussion to that effect. Yes.
Okay. Let's have a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting for January 19th. Can I get a motion?
I motion we approve the special meeting of January 19th and February 2nd as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have motion and support. Secretary, please call the roll.
Ms. Moody,
Yes.
Ms. Naylor,
Yes.
Mr. Broll,
Abstain.
Mr. Lalonde,
Yes.
Mr. Lubak,
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Chairman DeHunt,
Yes. Moving on to the approval of the minutes for the February 2nd meeting. May I get a motion, please?
I make a motion, we accept the minutes of the February 2nd, 2023 meeting.
We have motion. Do we have support?
Support.
We have motion and support. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Lalonde,
Yes.
Ms. Moody,
Yes.
Ms. Naylor,
Abstain.
Mr. Broll,
Yes.
Mr. Lubak,
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Chairman DeHunt,
Yes. Oh, and a little record keeping. I neglected to say Ms. Naylor's here. So if you can just put her in at, I think, 7:03. Moving on to the public hearing. Ms. Brazaszewski.
Thanks, Chair. Can we get a motion first to open up the public
My
hearing?
apologies.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion that we open the public hearing?
So moved.
We have motion. Do we have support?
Support.
We have motion and support. Secretary, please call the roll.
I'm sorry, who was support?
Mr. Lubeck? Oh, I'm sorry.
Ms. Moody.
Ms. Moody, supported.
Mr. Lubak,
Yes.
Ms. Moody,
Yes.
Mr. Broll,
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde,
Yes.
Ms. Naylor,
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Chairman DeHunt,
Yes. Ms. Brazaszewski.
Okay, great. Thanks for having me today. Thanks for coming out and voicing your thoughts about these projects that we're discussing. Right now, we're discussing the 24545 Gratiot Avenue request to have a special land use and operate a provisioning center. So that's a medical marijuana provisioning center. I can just give a brief description of the project before anyone interested wants to approach the podium and offer some public feedback on the project. But the project site is between 10 Mile and Stevens, as we can see on my computer here. It's on the red indicator. The project proposes to demolish the existing building right here and also these other existing buildings to create one marijuana provisioning center. The footprint of the building will be approximately probably the width of this existing building right here. And they also propose to upgrade this parking lot and offer some more site improvements such as pedestrian connectivity and of course landscaping improvements to the site. The project is within the B3 General Business District of the city, where marijuana provisioning centers are required to have a special land use to operate. And this is the last of the 3 applicants that the city's seen so far to fulfill the quota of 3 medical marijuana provisioning centers. So this is the last of the 3 projects. And Chair, if it's okay with you, maybe we could ask the public if they're interested, if they have any thoughts.
Absolutely. So if anybody in the public wishes to be heard, you have 3 minutes. Again, please write your name on the piece of paper as well as speak it into the microphone.
My name's Bentowski, and I've been a resident of East Point since 1976. And legal or illegal, this is still a drug house, whatever they go under the title of. And many of your residents moved to East Point to get away from these drug houses in their former cities and neighborhoods. And no man would want to bring his wife or his children into an area where they're selling narcotics. Nobody's going to invest big money into a business where they got drug use, drug selling. And then to bring it into the area like you've got right over there by Stevens and Gratiot, that's a prime, well-kept neighborhood. It's a busy shopping district, and I don't see any sense in why you want to bring garbage like that into our city. Now, we got excellent police and fire department, and all you're going to do is cause more trouble for them besides causing trouble for the residents. So, my input on these drug houses, in a beautiful city like East Point, what do you want to do? You bring it down? Because like it says on your letterhead and on the words above your city hall, a family town. What kind of family town is that where you can have 3 drug houses over here? Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to be heard on this matter? Anybody else?
Karen Morajan, East Point resident. The gentleman that just spoke, he does make a valid point because, it's just really easy to walk out of that location and onto the side streets. I think, currently we're having already a problem with, there's usually only 4 police cars on the road per shift. They're having to deal with way more than they've ever had to deal with before. I personally, I would rather see people who are wanting medical marijuana to be able to go to their own physician and, have it that way. I've got a lot of concerns about the way crime is currently. People are just engaging in so much violence, and it's not getting any better. And I walk around the city a lot, because there's so many places in the city you can easily walk to. You don't need to drive. And I've lost track how many times I've walked down blocks that, the skunk weed, it has such a sickening smell to it. And there's kids. People are not being smart. They're not being responsible. They're not showing any type of common sense whatsoever. Smoking pot when you got little kids running around. It's a horrible example to set for, the kids, and also with the secondhand smoke. It doesn't matter if it's pot or it's cigarette smoke. Their little lungs are still developing, and, there's the problem with putting them at risk of asthma and other lung-related diseases. Yeah, I sound like a wet blanket, but, I'm looking at keeping the community safe, and especially our elderly residents. I know you're looking at it, as a
30
business
seconds.
sense. Thanks. Business-wise, you're looking at it generating more revenue for the city. But also, have they even fixed the problem where the banks won't take the money? It's like they can't get accounts, and you don't want to put business owners at risk when there's all that cash on hand. That's dangerous.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Gary Meyer, East Point resident. I was just wondering if it's too close to residents for this one, because it seems like it's more in the neighborhood than the other ones. And just asking that question. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing on this matter. We'll move on to new business. Item A, consider recommending approval for special land use request for common citizen. Do we need a motion to close the public hearing? I'm sorry. It's been one of those days. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I move to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
We have motion and support to close the public hearing. Secretary, please call the roll.
Sorry, this is new. When did this come about?
When did this come about, by the way?
Well, that's a great question, but it is normal practice for planning commissions to open and close public hearings. So maybe we just didn't really do it in the past, but we are improving as a body together.
She's holding her feet to the fire. Secretary, please call the roll.
Fair enough. Mr. Lubak,
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde,
Yes.
Mr. Broll,
Yes.
Ms. Moody,
Yes.
Ms. Naylor,
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Chairman DeHunt?
Yes. Now, we're moving on to item A of new business, unless we need a motion for that. I'm joking. Ms. Brashevsky.
Thank you. So item A is to consider recommending approval for the special land use for 24545 Gratiot. We just gave a brief description of the project, but I just want to mention a couple other things. One, Common Citizen, the applicant, has been a great business partner. They've been attentive and communicative. This is one of the most complete site plan and special land use submissions that I've ever experienced. So I would just like to let everyone know in the room that we appreciate the business partnership. Again, this is the third out of the 3 provisioning centers that the zoning ordinance, and so city policy, allows in the community. And we can go to page 2 of the subject site improvements. So the applicant, again, seeks to redesign and activate an entire block of commercial space. So that consists of 7 parcels, like we described earlier. They're going to do site improvements like remove the concrete bumpers and repave the concrete on the approximately 0.7 acre site. And their improvements are suggested to cost around $700,000 with an estimated $6 million in capital investments. And additional capital investments include the following: reducing the level of existing imperviousness by 33%. So this means the total area of land that is resistant to water, so that's concrete, asphalt, sidewalks. They are eliminating that and thereby calming traffic and aiding in stormwater management. They're reducing the size of the curb cut along Gratiot from 70 feet to 16 feet. So I can go over here to show you exactly this curb cut. Here's the 70-foot curb cut. So they're reducing this to just be 16 feet. And they're also eliminating the Bell Avenue curb cut. So that also helps with safety and traffic flow. They're incorporating sustainable site design elements like a white roof that reflects UV rays. They have energy efficient appliances and design, and new underground and surface stormwater detention systems. They're increasing their visibility and walkability of the project site. They're providing aesthetically pleasing design like a large outdoor canopy structure, landscaping, green spaces, and bike racks. They also are installing new public sidewalk and sidewalk connections along Gratiot and permeable pavement. This means pavement that allows water to run through it. It's permeable. And then other improvements are listed on the capital improvement sheet provided by Common Citizen. The applicant is here today to represent their project if we have any questions. I guess I also listed on page 3 additional community benefits. So these are benefits not on the site, but additional community benefits as required by the city, and this is the reason why they were selected for one of the 3 slots to open a provisioning center. So they will have a total of a $500,000 donation to Kennedy and Memorial Parks. They also will donate $20,000 plus 1% of the profits to the community fund and contribute to a local drug and alcohol prevention program with the church and the Chamber of Commerce. They also offered to create a community outreach board that involves its Common Citizen representative and representatives from the city staff, the chamber, local nonprofits, and They're here to commit to have the greatest possible impact in the neighborhood. So considering all of the agreed upon community benefits, the planning department has issued a recommendation. Pending any comments from the public hearing, we recommend the planning commission consider the following motion, which is drafted on page 5. I'm not sure if you want me to go into that. But we do recommend approval of the special land use because the applicant provides the community benefits that create a net positive impact in the community. The community benefits, with these benefits, the project will be harmonious with the master plan and improve the community. And the applicant will require and recommend, will provide all of the required and recommended conditions outlined in the planner and engineer report, which will also uplift the project even more. So there's some areas of conversation for the motion that I wanted to point out. As the Planning Commission can see, other topics for the Planning Commission to address.
Ms. Brashevsky?
Go ahead.
And I'd appreciate if we can go one by one. That way, if anybody has any questions, they can ask them, and then we can follow that up at the end. But when was this application submitted? Because I have no dates here. And as I go through this, the site plan review application, I go to the third page, following list of administrative staff, building official Erin Hardcastle, she's been gone for quite some time. Fire chief is still here, AEW is there. City manager Elke Doom has been gone for some time. So when was this filed? Because there's no date on here that I can see. Because all those folks are gone.
Thanks, Chair. I would hope that the city attorney or city administration can help me answer this question, but their site plan is dated. Well, I'll get back to you on the site plan date of submission.
Because normally we have like a little stamp and says somebody paid $1,000, and I got nothing here. Ms. Holman?
Good evening.
Good evening.
As part of the acceptance process for all of the applications, we went through, the committee that was accepting the applications went through a review of completeness. The deadlines were December 15th of 2021. And then the first meeting, I believe, was in mid-January, so we went application by application, so everything had to be submitted. There were actually several applicants did not meet the completeness requirements, so these applicants all met that, so everything had been submitted at that time.
Okay. Sorry about that. There you go.
Okay, thank you. So I presented that the planning department recommends the special land use approval, a recommendation of approval. And I'm trying out something new here, Planning Commission. Due to Commissioner Bruhl's previous feedback on wanting to have more conversations about all of the underlying items in the review, I listed out on page 5, 1 and 2, the 2 items that we need to have you guys address. And these are if we want to require or not require that the applicant dedicate the northwest parking lot as public parking. So let me remind you, that's right here. And install public parking signs and enter a maintenance or easement agreement with the city. I know we discussed this with our last applicant. This is because the project has an excess of 14 parking spaces. There's 26 parking spaces proposed. So in order not to overpark the city, we think that it's beneficial to have some public parking or provisions like shared parking. And the second item is should we require or not require that the applicant install juniper screening wall around the dumpster by the south facade? And this comes under the special land use criteria if it's harmonious with the existing character. I can bring up the site. This is, so this is the proposed rendering of the Common Citizen project. Gratiot's right here.
I have a question about the little bit of parking that is not addressed, that is immediately behind the buildings that are closest to Forest and Gratiot. So if you look behind, you will see a little diamond-shaped,
This,
yes, who is that?
I have the same question. It is not, it's not owned by the applicant. It's not part of the project. It's not part of any of the parcel submissions.
It's a random piece of land that nobody owns?
Someone owns it, but not, it doesn't have anything to do with the project. Maybe the applicant can address this question a
Please.
little bit better.
Just in case I share. Good evening, Harold Rumlinger, Design Team Plus, Project Architect for Common Citizen on this project. That triangular parcel of land is owned by the homeowner directly behind it. So that is not part of our parcel. We have no control of it. So it is owned by the resident.
That is very odd.
We do have our civil engineer here if you'd like to ask him, but that is what we found out going through the survey work that was done on the parcel.
Wow. Okay. I'm at a loss on that one.
And then if I can address the public parking request, from a safety standpoint, this is a medical marijuana facility, 21 and over. We don't feel that would be a safe idea to have the public being able to park in our parking lot, walk across their parking lot or our property to a sidewalk. We also have to, commit to the CRA regulations as well, and we just feel that maybe having that as a parcel that the public can park on could be a safety risk and a safety hazard to anybody parking on that and accessing our property off of that parking lot. We are increasing the site considerably with pervious material. That parking lot has always existed, so I think there was a good trade-off for the excess parking by providing excess in our landscape area. Currently, per the revert report, we're supposed to have over 3,000 square feet of impervious surface. Per our calculations, we have over 7,000 square feet of pervious surface. So we've over doubled that quantity. I could share my screen if that's okay, or you want to control it over there, or? Okay.
And I think one of our commissioners has.
What's the purpose of the parking lot if you're already over?
It's an existing parking lot, so
You're redoing the parking lot, aren't you?
we're actually, increasing the height of the screening wall that's there. We are beautifying it. We are taking care of it since it was with the purchase of the property. So, it's, I don't know what the traffic studies are going to be. I know we did do a traffic report. It was part of the, application submittal. I want to say that came in with this, and we do have a representative Common Citizen here. He could probably speak on this a little bit more if Mike Beck wants to come up here. But he can explain a little bit more as to the reason for that parking lot that we have there.
Hi, good evening. I'm Mike Beck. I'm the Director of Community Affairs and Government Affairs for Common Citizen. A couple things. One of the things that we worry about is with the Cannabis Regulatory Agency. This is a heavy regulated industry. Only over 21 are supposed to be on the regulated site, so we maintain that unless you have a medical marijuana card and you're younger. So we can allow younger folks on there if they are with an adult and have a medical marijuana card. So to partner with the community, if it's something that's really important to try to figure out how to get parking there, we could probably look at maybe working out something with the city that it doesn't belong to us at that point. So I'm not exactly sure if that's your need, you need it, and we can figure out how to make something work. We're a partner wherever we go. We have 10 other retail facilities across the state. From the picture, I think you can tell that we really take a lot of pride in how our facilities look. In fact, our Flint store won an International Conference of Shopping Centers Award in 2019, a gold award, and they were up against like American Girl stores and Hershey's stores in New York and California. So we're here to partner. We're here to add green space. We love parks, as you can see from the community benefits we'd like to add. And so as far as partnering with the city, if you need more parking, we can find a way to safely do it and also fit within the regulation with the Cannabis Regulatory Agency. We'd work with you on that.
Okay. Mara, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to address this as a line item, that parking lot, as we go through through the site plan. Is that correct? I think you have a recommendation in there about how that parking lot could be used. You were talking about easements and perhaps maintenance agreements with the city, right? Correct?
Yes, this is part of the special land use review.
Right, I know. Right now, we're on the special land use. So
Yeah.
we're going to review the actual, what we're going to use it for during the site plan review. Correct?
Well, it's part
I
of
think
the
there's a-
special land use review. The criteria, so there's 8 standards for the project to fall under in the special land use review. And asking for shared parking would be under the standard improvement to the community.
Yeah, I guess my concern with that parking lot is right across the street from that, right across Bell Street is a banquet center. And I guarantee that thing will be filled whenever the banquet center is rocking on a Friday and Saturday night. So I don't know what the purpose is, if you already have enough parking spots as it is there not a better purpose for that, for the land, is I guess my concern. So.
I would like to say we have plenty of parking, but then again, if things are successful, do you have enough parking, right? I mean, it's always, we all want plenty of parking. Like, one of the things we find in a lot of our facilities that are successful, parking is at a premium. So, giving up, any retailer giving up parking is a little bit,
So it's your
you
opinion?
have a trepidation about it, right? But short of that, like I said, as a partner with the city and how do we work this out? That's what we try to do. If you need parking already, then I'm assuming we're gonna need parking as well, so.
If I may, our civil engineer, Tim Story's here right now, based on what we had in our calculations. Sorry, I should talk into this. We only were over roughly about 7 parking spaces, which means still half that parking lot will be utilized by us, not the entire parking lot being free to be used for the city. So I don't know how that comes up from a agreement with the city to have some of that not private and some of it, private. Tim Story's here. He can answer any questions on our calculations, how we came up with that.
Given the nature of this business, I didn't mean to interrupt, I would be all for not sharing parking. And I would think from a safety perspective, it would be better that we know exactly who's parking in there, and your lovely cameras will be concentrated there, and you don't have to worry about other people doing other things. And we're not trying to vacate the alley or anything like that, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then I do have one other question about that bizarre piece of land. I think we need to have some sort of wall behind those buildings and the alleyway. It does not seem like it should be there. You've got a masonry wall behind the other areas that you're going to make look nice. I almost feel like there needs to be a masonry wall over that bizarre strip of land that nobody knows what it's for.
If you put a masonry wall.
And I normally hate masonry walls.
If we do put a masonry wall across at the alley, then you block off access to that lot, which is.
Seems to me that would be on the owner of the lot's responsibility.
No, that's my lot.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You can block that lot. Ain't gonna happen.
All right. Okay.
Back to the parking spots. I did not understand. I had thought that you had fulfilled your parking obligation on the site itself. absent that parking lot. If the calculations show that you still need parking and that's part of it, then I understand. That makes sense to me.
Yes.
I did not understand that.
Anybody else have any questions on this point?
Not at this point.
Ms. Barshchewski?
Okay, so you have a recommendation to recommend approval of the special land use.
And I think she mentioned like the juniper around the
Dumpster.
dumpster. If
Not a
that's
problem.
what you guys want, that's not a problem. You know, that's something we run into quite a bit. It's how you want the dumpsters to look. We want them to be dressed up as well, but what works best for your community is what works best for us.
So I have a couple more questions. On the $500,000 donation, it says that will be done over a 5-year period. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it was in our application, correct?
Okay,
Yeah.
so what is the schedule, though? What is the schedule of the donations? Is it $1, $500,000? I mean, is there a defined schedule?
I don't know that there's in the application, that's what we put that we committed to. Now, in a lot of municipalities, like when it comes right down to it, we sign a community benefits agreement with the municipality. So like in Lake Orion, we have an agreement that was approved by the village council, and we just kind of laid out all those terms. And Westland, the same way, we're building a brand-new building in Westland, we have a community benefits agreement there. We have a community benefits team that actually works with the local staff. You'll have a liaison in the store, on site. We do micro-granting in communities we're in, we do a lot of unique stuff. So we bring that team in and work collectively. It really hasn't been specified in the application, but it's $500,000 over 5 years of operation.
You're saying in your other applications in other cities that you have not addressed a schedule? There's no schedule. When you make other donations in other cities, you don't have a schedule when you're going to make that $500,000, right?
It just depends on the application, it depends on the municipality. So, and it isn't always a $500,000 donation. This was something, when we came and I looked at it, actually looked around at some of the parks, and then I think I looked at one of your parks master plans and talked to our team and said, man, this is something I think we could help with. We love parks. So, as far as how that equates, the normal person in me would say it's protracted over 5 years equitably. Seems to make sense.
Well, would it be fair to say $100,000 per year? So this is a special land use, and the process will be, we're going to recommend to city council if we get to that point.
Correct.
The city council is going to get it, and then we'll approve it or deny it.
Sure, yep.
Right, so I personally, I would like to put in the recommendation and have a timeline as to how much you expect to donate. And understanding at the end of 5 years, you'll meet that obligation, but how much is it going to be per year? To me, that's an important part of the process. Do you have a problem with $100,000 per year? Does that seem reasonable?
It seems reasonable after operation, sure.
Okay.
I mean, I think it seems more reasonable than $500,000 the first year and nothing the other 4, or.
I would agree.
Or, from your side, 0 the first 4 and 500 at the end.
Right,
Because that may not come either,
Right.
right? So.
Right, okay. So, I mean, I would add, that, in my opinion, should be part of the recommendation. The other question I have for you is that, so a $20,000 donation plus 1% of profit, is that an annual donation?
I haven't read through the application. In a lot of places, that is an annual. I'd have to look to the depth of it in the community benefits agreement. I know that in the application, we talked about signing a community benefits agreement with the municipality.
Right, but I'm trying to understand, is that an annual donation?
I don't have that that'd be our community benefits team that would say that specifically. I know the 500,000 over 5 years,
Yeah.
and I can say we can make that happen on an annual basis.
Okay.
And the percentage, was that gross or net? Sounds crazy, but it's, it's
I don't have the application in front of me. I can't speak to it. Whatever it says in the application is what we'll do.
Okay, so the application was submitted to whom?
The
City administration? Okay,
yes.
so it's defined in this, in the application. That's what I'm understanding. And if that's true, then that's fine.
I would think
We
it's-
commit to everything we said in the application under
Sure,
community
I'm
benefits.
trying to understand, I don't have that
We,
information in front of
and
me.
I understand. I don't have it in front of me either. It was about this big, if I recall. You guys know, if you looked at it, they're about this big, so.
Okay, all right, thanks for clarifying that, so.
Well, that wasn't very good clarification.
I meant the other stuff, not that, I'm confused about that still.
I would think that a schedule would be very helpful if the money's is going to go to Parks and Rec, so they can plan out projects and things like that. So if they know that they're going to get a $100,000 check from Common Citizen on January 1 of '24, then, I would assume that would help them budgetarily too.
Right, well, they've agreed to 100,000 per year, so I mean, at least it's defined.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Any other questions from anybody about this?
I would like to know the 500,000 that you're saying that you're going to donate. Is that contingent upon your profits, or are you saying that's strictly out of your operations budget?
Per the application, if I read it, the little bit of snippet that she mentioned, it said, through the first 5 years of operation. We anticipate being profitable. Like I said, this is not our first store, obviously. We have 10 others throughout the state. It's a big chunk for us, I can tell you that. It would be one of the largest community benefits packages that we've put together. But when we came out here, we looked at this community, and we had a couple guys that got excited about your master plan of parks, and we said, how can we help?
In addition, you also mentioned 1% of your profits. Who oversees the profits? How will the city know your profits?
We'd have to figure out the actual way to look at that. I mean, there's different ways. I'd have to turn that over to the finance team.
Thank you.
Good question. Ms. Brashevsky, anything else?
Thanks, Chair. So the reason why we recommended the juniper screening wall, I just want to point this out because I was asked to do so, is because at the south facade, there's also a child care center. The applicant here today filed and established their drug-free zone buffer before the child care center was in operation, and that is why we are proceeding with the application today. The city attorney, I'm sure, can comment a little bit more if needed, but I do know that I was requested to bring up that note, and that is why we asked for a juniper screening wall, an additional enhancement at the south facade.
Mr. Albright, could you touch on that, please? Because I know that there has been some concern, myself included.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Mr. Chair. This application was submitted before that child care facility became operational. I know that the owner of that business reached out to city administration. That email was forwarded to my office on Monday afternoon, and I attempted to contact the person who had reached out to city administration. I was only able to leave a voicemail, and I've not yet heard back from that person. So what should happen this evening is that this applicant was one of 3 finalists who went through the process. They were granted the ability to obtain a license. It's now before the Planning Commission for both site plan approval and special land use approval recommendation to the City Council. So the fact that there's this other business in the area does not invalidate or in any way should be of concern to this body, because this applicant, as far as I'm concerned, as determined by the Medical Marijuana Committee, has given this finalist a top 3 vote and has approved the application to move forward.
Okay. Mr.
I did have a question, Chair. Because it does, you said the south side, but the notes do say along the west. Along the west, is it the south and not the west? I'm sure looking at it properly.
Mr. Lubeck?
All right, I remember going over these details about distances to certain facilities and so forth on that. And I guess I have to pose a hypothetical. Suppose a business now, after this, if this were to be approved, that would not be permitted, the facility would not be permitted in close proximity to, came to the city and says, I want to open within that, it's a good term, the drug-free zone. Would the city prevent that business from opening?
I'll defer to Ms. Holman, but I don't believe that a business license would be issued for that business because of the required buffer district that this type of facility would be in.
Because if I remember, our restrictions were on the marijuana facilities, not the other businesses. Is this reciprocal in saying that if the marijuana facility could not open in proximity to that business, and on the other side of that, that business would be prevented from opening near a marijuana facility?
That's a good question. I don't think, well, it hasn't been, or hasn't come up yet, because we haven't had any of these facilities up and running yet. So I don't know how city administration would handle something like that. It was something that we would have to look at.
My first guess is they would defer to the city attorney.
They probably would, and I would be happy to investigate that and research that issue and come up with a legal opinion.
And let me ask one further question. That child care facility is going to have to come back in front of the city to renew their business license at some point. How is that going to be affected by where they're located if this is approved?
Again, that issue hasn't come up yet. It's something
It has
that-
right now.
Yeah, well, it has, but it hasn't. I haven't had the chance to review and to see what kind of impact that would have. Also, to look at other communities that have already had these types of facilities up and running, to see how they've handled those types of situations. But it's something that I would want to get with city administration, certainly. Kim's shaking her head, yes. And the city planner, and then, of course, come up with a legal opinion as to whether that license could be renewed under the circumstances.
It's almost like grandfathering, but then it isn't.
My guess is that that child care facility, if they came back for a renewal, assuming that there weren't any other issues, that their license would be renewed.
You have a great proposal. I have a hard time, and I understand the legal aspects of the timing of the applications and all that. But the spirit of the ordinance was that child care centers were not going to be, these facilities would not be around child care centers. So somebody has stumbled somewhere, either in allowing this facility to open up potentially near a marijuana facility, or the spirit of the ordinance was not to be this close to a marijuana facility. That was the spirit of it. And I understand that, we follow legal rules, we follow facts, but the spirit of this just seems to me to be off. And Ms. Holman has a rebut.
Not a rebut. So, I'm sure you all know I'm not a fan of the ordinance, the way it was written on a practical basis and how to actually implement it. However, the distance, the distances from the buffered uses were set up, and to be honest, we spent a lot of time. We actually had the applicants submit surveys to actually distinguish how far they were away from both residential and any other protected uses, whether it be parks or schools or child care centers. We went into great detail, into great research to determine at the time the applications were submitted, and we admit we were slow and methodical, but at the time that the applications were submitted, those that moved forward were sufficiently distant from any of those protected uses. As it relates to child care center, again, Mr. Albright, I agree that would be something we'd have to research and see. I believe that child care centers are actually, the bulk of the responsibility for licensing is on the state, not on the city. So that would be up to the state to do that. But we had to pick a point in time, and that point in time was at the time of the application. We have child care centers a huge need. They're opening and moving, same with some of the other protected uses. But there had to be a point in time, and so that was the day of the application. The date of the application, our engineer double-checked everything and issued an opinion on each of the 22 applicants.
Thank you.
Hi, Chair. So if you've noticed, I've started to share my screen, Planning Commission, City Council, members of the public even. This memo is not new to you. I wrote a memo and partnered with the Assistant City Manager to discuss the process that the city took to review marijuana, medical marijuana applicants. So first, we have an overview of the ordinances that regulate marijuana. We can see that there are 4 ordinances within the city's code of ordinances. Chapter 50 zoning establishes the buffer. Moving forward, we have a background. There were 22 applications. I'll just keep going forward to the 3 projects that were selected, and then the timeline. And in January 28, 2022, a buffer analysis was performed by the city engineer to ensure projects were not located within 500 feet of a drug-free zone and also 50 feet from a residence. Measured from the front door to the center line of the road back to the other front door. These are all listed in the city's zoning ordinance, chapter 50.
Does anybody have any comments for Ms. Brashevsky? Concerns? Moving on.
Okay, so again, on the table for discussion, you have a special land use consideration. The talking points are if you want to dedicate any of the northwest parking lot as public parking spaces, because the site is contributing to overparking, and we don't want to increase impervious surface area in the city, impervious surface area within the city. And number 2 is to require a juniper screening bush along the south facade. And then I heard the commissioners say 2 more. One is to ask the applicant contribute $100,000 per year for the next 5 years, and then communicate with the city regarding their profits, so we understand the 1% profit share.
Sounds pretty succinct, unless there's anything anybody else has to offer.
I mean, when you say the next 5 years, we need to get operational, correct? That's what the application said. It's kind of hard to write a check if we're not open.
5 years from grand opening.
Okay.
That's what all of and we're happy to put that into a CBA. We've done that with other communities, and we can actually work with the staff and help build the template.
On the issue of the shared parking, I understand your point of view of not saying you want that to be public parking. But is there another way in which if other people park there, it wouldn't be a problem? Because Joe of Joe's Music was particularly ornery when they had an event going at the East Point Manor, or previous to that, Carpenter's Hall, where he was calling in tow trucks to have his non-customers' vehicles towed. But he was at least nice enough to go over and stomp on the ground and beat his fists on the desk at the hall and say, you get the people to move the cars or else. And I guess what I'm looking at is if someone were to park there and walk over to the banquet facility, is that going to be a problem?
Well, talking
As
with the-
opposed to calling it public parking, which would encourage them to park there.
So are you saying like maybe possibly designate some banquet facility
No.
signage parking or?
No. What I'm saying is, don't designate it as public parking, but also don't treat it as prohibited parking.
Don't have the tow truck on speed dial?
Yeah.
911 kind of thing. Yeah, the concern I have, again, it's safety and regulatory compliance. And once I get over those humps, we can talk about it. Oh, sorry.
If
I
I
have
may.
a problem with someone owning property that we're going to force them to, and due to safety and regulatories, allow them to have public parking there.
I don't want it to be public parking. I guess what I
And
want to just say is,
honestly, I
that,
think if
pardon the
there's-
language, but a gentleman's, kind of like if 1 or 2 cars parked there,
that still lets
we're not going to get up.
responsibility and risk fall on them when it shouldn't, because those people shouldn't be parked there in the first place.
I would have to agree with the applicant that there are very stiff regulations. You said over 21, some of those things. And if we could just stop the public parking, the city does not want to take on any additional parking or liabilities to that effect. So, moving on.
I can tell you we're good neighbors wherever we go, I guess if that's a concern. But we also still, if there's kids in that parking lot, we're going to have to get them out of there and all those things. It's a very regulated industry with a lot of cameras. I mean, I tell people it's a casino style. I mean, every square inch of everything has to be visually monitored, recorded, high definition. If the state comes in and wants to see a printout picture of that person that's standing over there, we have to be able to pull that up and hand it to them. So, there's a lot that goes on in the parking lot, but there's also regulatory compliance that we have to make sure, because we can lose our license just as easily from the state if we're not following those things. Those are concerns, but as a partner in the communities we go to, we try to figure out how to make things work. But regulatory compliance with the state is our number one thing, and the municipality, of course.
Mr. Chair, getting more clarity around that, that would be kind of difficult to be a CBO benefit to, I think, allow some public parking on a highly regulated premise that could impact their operations. I don't know what the matter has done up until now, or who their neighbors were before, but this is a highly regulated area for parking, and I think it should be excluded from any CBO benefits community or made public parking with posting. That's going to impact them. It can't be public and on their premises at the same time. If there's that type of restriction, I would say we should probably remove the parking requirements in our recommendations.
I don't know how your other facilities work. What are your operational hours?
It varies on the municipality. I would just say there's like a standard 9 to 9, 9 to 10 kind of situation, so.
And because of the banquet hall, and we know how people are, do any other facilities use like a chain or something to close off the parking?
No, but, we, like any other retailer, we could say common citizen parking only, all those things, the standard threats. I mean, again, and there's people there, there's security there, there's people watching, and if somebody's pulling in and parking and walking over, we can try to be really polite and sort it out. These are, I think it's any retailer has a problem, because if they want their parking, they want their parking, and if everybody's coming in and parking, and they're parking, but you still got to get along. But we also have that regulatory compliance piece.
Right, which is why I'm almost
That's-
thinking if you could have a gate or a chain or something. I know we have other businesses that do that, just for your protection,
That
so
would
you don't
like
have to worry
extra
about it. I mean,
hours.
I don't know, it's just wondered, that's all.
I mean, with us using that parking lot as part of our parking criteria, it's kind of hard to chain that off and allow our patrons actually use that. When we close after hours, that could be a possibility. It's not something that we have set up. That's a fairly long chain running across there, short of just putting signage up, but you still can't control what people are going to be doing.
I would think that if it's after operational hours, that your license would be safe if somebody were to just randomly park there, that shouldn't be parking there. If it's after your hours of operations, I would think that you would be in the clear.
I can tell you, in facilities that we have, people park in once we're closed. It happens. We see them on the cameras, and if something nefarious is going on, we hand it over to the PD. It's like, actually, in most of our locations, PD has access to our cameras. We grant them, because it's in the cloud, and we allow them to take a look. And
So our police department would have access to your cameras?
if that's
24/7?
what they would like to have, absolutely. We do that for almost every place we go.
Anything
Okay.
else?
I would just clarify that the northwest parking lot is not going to be combined with the site. So the other several parcels are required to be combined to be considered one site. So if the applicant did want to enter a shared parking agreement, I'm not sure what parcel numbers you file with the state of Michigan, but the northwest parcel is not considered the contiguous other parcel site.
I think the biggest problem comes, just pragmatically, we need the parking for our calculation, so we have to have that, so then it's going to have to be cameraed and under all of those other auspices, so it will be, from the Cannabis Regulatory Agency's view, I would assume it's going to be our parking lot. I can reach out, those are conversations I can have with them, we talk to them all the time, but it's not one we've come across yet, so.
Chair, one other thing, it was brought up on page 9, in the city ordinance, provisioning centers are regulated to operate between, 8 PM, or they can't operate between 8 PM and 10 AM. So that's within the
10 to 8.
ordinance, and it might be ripe for shared parking. All right, that's all I have on that note.
Chair, if I may. The parcels that are being combined, this parking lot is already part of the legal description of another property. They are combining five to seven parcels. So this is going to be combined as the entire project. So I hope we can put this to rest.
Anything else? Board?
Hi, Chair. So we cannot require that they combine the northwest parcel because it's separated by an alley. So we can only require that they combine the contiguous parcels. Thanks.
No other questions? Nothing else from you? Okay.
Okay, you said you cannot require them to combine them. I'm questioning whether if they wanted to combine them, if they could.
The parcels are separated by a public alley, so I don't think that it's possible to do that, but we can ask the city assessor.
Because if they
Do you
need
see?
it for parking,
Right here.
I'm wondering if we
Alley.
have an issue. Because then technically it's considered off-site parking.
Chair, I don't understand any questions
Well,
asked.
if the parcel is not connected, then it would, to Mr. Lubeck's point, it would be off-site parking.
And if they need that to meet their parking requirements, in other words, they can't meet their on-site parking requirements unless they include the parking in that lot that you're saying cannot be combined as a parcel. So I'm a little bit confused as to how that's working.
Does it have to be combined, like a continuous parcel, if they have ownership of their site plan? Does it have to be?
Chair, the parcels do not have to be combined.
I think Ms. Holman we're going to move your table right over there tonight.
This is similar to the holistic health applicant that we just saw. We did not recommend, and we can't require that they combine the memorial site to their provisioning center site. It's the same situation.
But as I understood that, they weren't dependent on that site for meeting their parking requirements.
They needed a couple spaces from that site.
You're on.
So someone who has done chain of title research for 22 years. The alley is basically an easement that goes through. So if the deeds that come through have that parking lot as part of that parcel, then yes, they can be combined. The alley is going to be an easement. Anything else?
As a civil engineer, I'm pretty sure that I've seen multiple occasions where an alley like that has gone through and it's part of the same parcel. So it's unusual, but it's not.
It's not unheard of.
Right.
Ms. Holman's explanation makes perfect sense to me, but that's me.
It has happened in other municipalities. I know I'm doing a site plan where they've turned over the alley as to be used as the driveway entrance, where we combine parcels on a block. So it's just up to the municipalities, but the easement, they just do the assessments of what's running in that space. You may have to be responsible for some relocation. If there's lines or sewers may want to preserve, but I have a site plan currently right now that the municipalities allow that to actually be the entrance. Use the driveway, so I have total control of 2 blocks.
Answers the questions on that, I think. Can I get a motion, I think, maybe, or do you have a little bit more that you like here? Is anybody willing to make a motion on item A to consider recommending approval for the special land use request for common citizen at 24545 Gratiot?
I follow a motion that we accept site plan approval for 20.
Special land use.
Special land use, excuse me. Special land use for 24545 Gratiot Avenue for common citizens.
Do we have second?
I have a question on that. So are we also including not requiring the, to have public parking and requiring junipers?
And as well as requiring a schedule of the community benefits of $500,000. Ms. Broszewski.
Thank you, Chair, and also all of the items outlined in the planner's review dated February 6, 2023, and the engineer's letter dated November 29, 2022, excluding item number 2 because it's a professional opinion that a decorative screening wall is beneficial to the project. This is listed, the recommended motion is listed on page 5 of the review letter.
Ms. Naylor, do you want to restate for her?
I'm trying to get to page 5 so I can read them all. Thank you.
So many page 5s.
In summary of Marvis. You have a chair, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Oh, what the planning commission may want to do, and the maker of the motion, Ms. Naylor may want to do, is have Mara read all of those provisions, and then the maker of the motion would say, I make a motion to adopt the planner's recommended motion. That would probably be the cleanest way to do that.
Okay.
So, Mara, can we do that again, please?
Sure. I'm here for you guys. We got this. Okay, so I move to recommend approval of the proposed special land use for a medical marijuana provisioning center at 24545 Gratiot, parcel ID number 021430251066-067-068-069-070-071 035 to City Council with the required and recommended conditions outlined in the planner's review dated February 6, 2023, except for no shared parking or public parking is recommended or required. And including all of the relevant conditions in the engineer's letter dated November 29th, 2022, except for item 2. We also require a juniper screening wall at the south side of the facade to screen the dumpster. And we also require $100,000 a year for 5 years after the grand opening of the business. And we also require that the project communicates with the city regarding profit sharing. And we make this motion based on the findings of fact that the applicant will provide and agreed upon community benefits, and these benefits create a net positive impact in the community. And with the community benefits and recommendations from the planner, the project is more harmonious with the master plan and an improvement to the community. And again, the applicant will provide all of the required and recommended conditions as outlined in the planner and engineer report.
Is that it? I move that we accept, file a motion to accept, motion filed by our planning consultant and move forward with recommending the site plan review. We accept it. I'm sorry. The special land use, I got it over there. The special land use. We accept it.
We have the long motion. Do we have a short support?
Support.
We have motion and support. Secretary, please call the roll.
No,
Oh.
no, more discussion on this.
All right.
There was something said about a screening wall. Can I get clarification on that?
Yes, this is the same motion that you've seen in the previous project with Holistic Health. It's the same requirement. We require a screening wall like we do in every city that I've worked within and that my colleagues have worked within. A screening wall is required between a public right-of-way, which is a sidewalk, and a parking lot. So there's 3 different types of screening devices. There's either a screening wall that's under 3 feet, or a 3-foot planting wall, or a berm. But since the site is kind of small, we don't require a berm, or we don't recommend a berm.
How does that apply to screening along the alley?
There's another screening wall that's required. That's a 6-foot screening wall, and that is a device used to protect or buffer the residential neighborhood and a commercial property. That is also standard procedure that planning commission's used to.
Right, okay, I just wanted to, so those are items we're going to discuss under the site plan.
Yes.
Okay. That's the clarification I was looking for.
One more point of clarification. So on the $100,000 per year, will that be reviewed as part of that those donations happen as part, I guess, and the 20,000 plus 1% for donation? Will those be part of the annual business license review process to ensure that those donations were made?
Yes, the city will put all of the community benefits in a notification within the business or the BSA, building development system and business licensing system. And when we have an annual review of a business license, there will be an alert for a business license clerk to get with the Community and Economic Development Department.
Any other clarification needed before we go for a vote? Secretary, we have motion and support. Please call the roll.
Ms. Naylor?
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde?
Yes.
Ms. Moody?
Yes.
Mr. Lubeck?
Yes.
Chairman DeHunt?
Legally, I vote yes. in my heart, I have a hard time with this, and just because I feel the spirit of the ordinance is not being followed, but I will vote yes. Moving on to considering approval of the site plan for Common Citizen, 24545 Gratiot.
Great. So the applicant here has a site plan up, but I also have my shared screen. Thank you, Common Citizen, for joining in on the conversation. So provided there's consensus with the commission regarding the special land use review, we also recommend to the planning commission the motion stated below on the same page 5. But we do recommend approval of the site plan. And so there's some discussion topics here. The first one is, do we want to grant a waiver or not grant a waiver to provide one evergreen and one ornamental tree in lieu of one deciduous tree? As you can see before you, Common Citizen, I think they said they had 10 different businesses without Michigan, but of course, you can see within their site plan review that they have an aesthetic and a brand. And like I said before, this project is one of the best site plans, the best site plan I've ever seen in terms of completion. But I also can see that the design of the building has an aesthetic. So if we look at the landscaping plan, do you have it up there? Yeah, yes you do. Okay, perfect. Right on, thank you. So there's a shrub, like evergreen tree that is proposed at the north west side of the site. And that is by the buffer, the residential screening wall. So evergreen trees, I just want the planning commission to know, evergreens are known to be good devices for screening. So that might be beneficial for the planning commission to allow that. And then also an ornamental tree is proposed by the pedestrian entrance, the main entrance to the building along the north facade. So that is the talking points for item 1. And then item 2, if the planning commission wants to permit or not permit vertical Trespa pura as a facade material. I communicated with some of my colleagues. We have not heard of vertical Trespa pura, but I do think it is a wood composite. I think the applicants can provide more information on it. But I just want to provide planning commission with the full idea of what is happening on this site. And you can see there are these 3 buildings here are masonry, old masonry brick buildings, and like common brick buildings. They are made of brick, that they are the most durable type of building, and they will be taken down. So we just want to make sure that the other buildings in place, the proposed building in place, will also have the same durability. So that's why we just want a little bit more detail about the vertical Trespa pura. On that same note, we'd like to clarify that the brick that we're using is common brick, or no, we don't require common brick, but face brick, and not brick veneer. And Planning Commission, let me know if you want me to go into detail about the differences, but I did send an article to you guys on that, a little training. So let's just talk about those things before I move on. If that's okay with you, Chair? Okay.
Would you like me to start?
Chair? Harold?
All right, thank you. So, we pass this along to everybody. This is a sample of the Trespa pura. This is the actual material thickness and the one that we had spec'd on it. Play with it, try to break it, do what you like with it. Trespa pura has been around since Trespa has been around since 1916, originally out of the Netherlands. They typically did commercial material siding, rain screens, for instance, where it allows air to move behind the product so that it never gets wet and it dries out, doesn't allow water to infiltrate within the building, so it provides a very good protective barrier from the elements. Trespa pura is a paper wood composite with thermally and pressurized resins that it's bonded together. It has a 10-year warranty against any fading on the exterior face of it. It is graffiti resistant, meaning that somebody can write chalk on it, spray paint on it. You can use a solvent-based cleaner to clean that off. We are using this in the area above the walking surface. So this will not be in the area in which any person can, rub up against it, touch it, or anything like that. We are putting it above the canopy or above the entrance and the glass leading into the front, which, can I get a larger screen? Thank you. Kind of hard to get to it, but it's basically up in this area right here on the building. So it's up out of reach, so we don't have to really worry about graffiti unless somebody's climbing on top of that canopy to do so. We do have, if you feel that you are not a fan of it, an alternative that I will present cut sheets on. This is actually a corrugated metal product. You can see a photograph with Kroger's having it on the facade. This would be an alternative to the Trespa. We're currently using that on our Westland facility. But personally, I have Trespa going on my house, so I'm happy with it. And I don't see there going to be an issue with it. As for the brick, this is actually a real brick veneer. This is a modular brick. It's not a half brick or a thin brick. It is a brick veneer that's going over top of concrete block. So we have a very durable facade around the building. The brick is painted white. We use a Glengarry brick typically in our designs and our specifications. So that is a true brick that you'll be seeing that will be on the facade of the building, as well as we do have then the cultured limestone stone, which is going on the piers and the pillars around the building. If you have any questions regarding the Trespa, feel free to shout out and let me know what your questions are and see if I can answer you. But as you can see, it's up here. It is over here, but this is within our landscape area there for them to get to, where the signage is.
Chair, I have a question. But what is the width of the brick that you're proposing?
The brick is going to be 7 5/8 by 2 5/8 by 3 5/8.
So in inches?
2 inches and a little bit over half tall, 7 inches and a little bit over half long, and over 3.5 inches deep. So it's a standard.
Okay, so
standard modular brick.
Base brick. Okay.
Not a lick and stick.
Any other questions on the brick?
Okay. Moving forward, we'd like to have clarification about the black parapet material, and Planning Commission must accept this material.
That will be a standard .04 aluminum brake metal parapet cap.
Metal.
With a Kynar finish typically.
Metal.
Metal.
Okay, item should be 4. We have the topic to restore and repaint both sides of the existing 6-foot screening wall. So if I were sharing my screen, I would go to the neighboring site of where the 6-foot screening wall is required, and I would show the, the nature of the screening wall as it exists today and how it would benefit from an upgrade, especially from the residents' point of view. So we would want the Planning Commission to consider that the applicant require that the repaint and finish the 6-foot screening wall on the resident side, not just their commercial side. We also recommend to install a dumpster gate with wood composite material instead of fir to help with the longevity of the dumpster enclosure. And I think in the rendering, a mural is proposed, so we would want the Planning Commission to understand if there's a mural. And along the west facade, the applicant proposes to use CMU block. So if the mural's there, then we think that it's okay to use CMU block, but if there is no mural, then the ordinance requires face brick.
You said mural on the west facade,
Yes,
meaning the wall that is in the alley,
yes.
okay?
You can see in the rendering.
Now, on the screening wall, we have the screening wall on the applicant's parking lot, between that parking lot and residential. That's the one you are referring to as being repainted on both sides. Is that correct?
Yes, that's what we'd recommend. If I could share my screen, I don't have to though. If you want to just Google the site, 24545 Gresham, well, of course you know the site. And we could drop the little guy down and see what the existing quality of the 6-foot screening wall is. And you could see why we make the recommendation to repaint that side as well, or refinish.
That wasn't my concern.
Okay, well then we don't need to do that.
Okay.
My concern is with the screening wall being extended to the area of, for lack of a better description, the mystery triangle that we discussed earlier.
We don't know the property.
Chair, I can have a clarification. We are not requiring any screening wall on any property that it's not the property of common citizen. So we cannot require the, so to speak, mystery triangle to have a screening wall.
You said that, I didn't this time.
But I am completely confused as to what is going to be their property and what isn't. Because I am looking at a proposed building here that clearly extends to at least a portion of that mystery triangle.
The only place that we touch the mystery triangle is right here on the south side. That's the only place in which we abut it. Our property line is actually on the opposite side of the alley, away from that property. And as we heard from the owner of that property earlier today, he will not allow that to be blocked off.
He doesn't get to make those choices.
But that is actually where we are, that on our property. That is our property line. We only touch it right up here at where I got the messy circle.
Where we have a wall.
Where we have a wall. And we do have a wall there that's blocking it off, as well as a wall between the other neighbor. And we have no problem with painting it on both sides, as long as we can gain access from the neighbor to allow us on their property to do so.
And regarding the private.
But wait a
owner,
minute,
if
I'm
I may
still
ask a
confused.
question. Regarding the private owner, we have had a situation where there was some owners who came before the commission saying that they did not want a wall put up for their own safety and access to their property. So I think if he is the one who's most impacted, I think that owner should have some say, because it is his property that we're addressing, before we say absolutely we can't. We have done it before.
I'm not saying a wall, I'm saying a screening device. There are alternate screening devices to walls. But, am I understanding this correctly? Your property goes all the way to the sidewalk at Forest.
Yes, it does. But the property line is,
I don't want to know the
Okay.
west property line.
yes, the the south property line is along Forest.
Okay, so typically in circumstances where we've had screening devices, that has to go along your property line or the opposite side of the alley, all the way to the corner, with the possible inclusion of a clear corner radius.
My understanding is that parking needs to be screened, but the project does not, per se. Is that correct?
The only screening devices that are required in the zoning ordinance are the division buffer between a residential property and a commercial property. In that example, a 6-foot masonry screening wall is required. And the other time when screening devices are required is between public right-of-way and a parking lot. And there are 3 different types of tools used in that situation. One tool for screening is a 3-foot masonry wall. The other tool for screening is a landscaping wall. And a landscaping wall means a tight landscaping vegetative wall that has the purpose of being, like, acting as a screen and a berm.
I'm still not understanding why a screening device is not being required all the way to Forest.
And that parking.
On the west
Is not zoned.
side of the alley.
Zone P.
That parcel is actually Zone P for parking. That's across the alley.
It doesn't require a screen.
So what we had here tonight was somebody who owns just a parking lot.
They also own the house next to it. What I observed was that they park like a big motorhome there and stuff like that sometimes.
I've observed the same thing. I
Which I believe is a violation of our ordinance. If it is a parking lot, you're not supposed to be storing vehicles on a parking lot.
Chair, we can't require the applicant to produce a screening device on a property that's not theirs.
I understand that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm okay with that. This is a very awkward one.
Any other discussion on this point?
Doesn't look like he's gonna let you to it.
Ms. Brashevsky?
We would probably want some consideration or clarification if there's a mural, and Plan Commission, if there is a mural, then I would recommend that you're okay with granting the CMU block along the west facade. And if there is a mural, we would require that it's completed within 1 year of business license. When you receive your business
We're
license.
gonna do one in Westland. We've done one in Flint. We do them, we engage in the local art population because we like to support the arts where we go as well. So we would work with whatever organization and maybe come up with a design and figure out how to make that happen, so.
Just talk to Ms. Holman. They found a lady to do a beautiful job in the children's garden. I'm sure Wendy Popko would be a great consideration for that.
I guess I would prefer to state it the other way. And that, how did you put it? What material if they're going to have a mural?
The concrete masonry unit block.
Okay, the only way they can have that is if they're putting up a mural, is what I'm saying. If they're going to use that, they're going to have to put a mural on.
Yes.
Okay.
Moving on.
Real quick on the screen wall that runs perpendicular to Bell Road. It's a 6-foot wall, I believe. Is that a 6-foot wall?
If I'm not mistaken, I think it's slightly, the one that's perpendicular to the street, I think that's lower than 6 foot. I think we're proposing to raise that wall up to 6 feet.
Okay, so when we raise it to 6 feet, that resident that is just north, I guess it'd be west, that resident will not be able to see if that 6-foot wall runs all the way to the end of the sidewalk. So when they're backing out a car, they wouldn't be able to see on a 6-foot wall. They would not be able to see if somebody's driving their bicycle. So we need to lower that wall for some period of,
Yeah.
some period there.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, that wall would have to have the clear vision requirement.
Right, so I'm making that clear, right? So that needs to be included in the, any amendments that were made.
I think it stops here.
It's close. It's real
No,
close.
not yet.
The wall's here,
Yeah, it's getting on all
and
the
then
way.
it turns.
It
But
turns.
see, this is lower here.
Right, that's lower across there.
That's only 3 foot.
So we should
Chair-
step in this.
Chair, if this helps. So all of these items that I put on, and this is a process improvement, we're, working with each other, but all of the items I put under your consideration for a site plan review are recommendations and not requirements in the zoning ordinance. All of the clear vision requirements, like all of the requirements such as clear vision triangle requirements, are stated in an underlined portion of the site plan. So we're not talking about, like, those are things that the applicant just has to abide by because it's a zoning ordinance. The items under discussion are the recommendations. So yes, the applicant has to address the clear vision triangle, and there's some other discrepancies with some of the other clear vision triangles along the site that I've outlined in the planner's review letter.
Good. Any other discussion? Anything? Seeing none, Ms. Brazaszewski, should we move on to a motion? Or do you have a little bit more that you want?
No, I'll attempt the motion
Please.
if you wish.
Do you all agree with that? All right.
Well, looking at the site plan, number 5 talks about the turning radius for a fire truck. I mean, has that been addressed?
Fire truck turning radius.
Yeah, the fire truck can manipulate through the parking area.
Fire marshal?
We're good? Okay. All right, good.
Okay,
All right. So, we ready?
yes,
All right.
yes.
Can I get a motion that we approve the site plan for Common Citizen at 24545 Gratiot Avenue?
Parcel number 0214, City Attorney, do I have to say the parcel numbers?
I'd recommend it.
Okay, 021430251066-067-069-070-071-035, provided that special land use approvals are granted by City Council and contingent on the applicant providing the requirements and recommendations as outlined in the planner's review dated February 6, 2023, and the engineer's letter dated November 29, 2022, excluding item 2. Additionally, we grant a waiver to provide 1 evergreen tree and 1 ornamental tree in lieu of 1 deciduous tree. We permit vertical tres papira as a facade material. We also permit the brick because it will be a face brick material. We approve the black metal parapet material. We require that the applicant, granted they receive neighbor approval, repaint and restore the 6-foot screening wall on the residential side and the commercial side. The applicant uses wood composite material instead of fir or pine for the dumpster, and we permit the concrete masonry unit block as a canvas for the facade, only if there's a mural and if the mural is produced within 1 year after receiving the business license.
Does anybody wish to make that motion?
What she said.
We have motion. Do we have support?
Second.
We have motion and support. Any discussion? Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Lubeck?
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde?
Yes.
Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Ms. Naylor? Ms. Moody?
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Chairman DeHutt?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We are moving on to item C. But before we discuss this, I do want, in the interest of full disclosure, I have asked that we get, starting as soon as possible, quarterly updates on things that we have discussed. So part of the reason why I've asked this of the city is we had approved a takeout restaurant on Gratiot near 10 Mile. Nothing has ever been done. So I think it would be a nice thing for us quarterly to say, all right, we approved this, this, and this. Where are we at in the process? And I'd also like to think that it might keep our applicants on top of their game, for lack of a better phrase. So I just want to put that out there, that I've asked for a quarterly update, so. So, moving on to, yes, Chairman Lubeck. Oh, Chairman Lubeck. Mr. Lubeck.
That's Vice Chairman.
Vice Chairman Lubeck.
I think that's an excellent idea, Chairman DeHaan. Sometimes things just get lost, fall through the cracks, and we wonder whatever happened to them. And by getting updates quarterly, that still keeps them fresh in our mind. So that's an excellent suggestion.
So, but just one more thing on their plate, as opposed to me squeezing them to get them sooner, paperwork sooner.
So you're saying you want your 90-day updates in 60 days?
75. All right. Ms. Brashevsky, shall you discuss item C under new business, please?
I'd love to. And it's no problem for the planning department to continuously provide updates on a monthly basis of all of the, is that what you're asking? Monthly basis?
Quarterly.
Quarterly? Quarterly basis of all of the progress we've made so far. That's what we're asking? Okay, no problem. So we are discussing item C. Consider approving the 2022 Planning Commission Annual Report and the 2023 Work Plan. We only need approval of the 2022 Annual Planning Report. As you can see, I put it on the screen for us. But the purpose of the 2022 Annual Report is to satisfy the Michigan Planning Enabling Act requirements that require a city with a planning commission to provide a report of their activities. So the motion on the table here is to approve the annual report, and then City Council will receive and file the annual report. However, McKenna, because you can also see that there's a proposed work plan, so McKenna goes above and beyond the annual report requirements, and we also produce a potential work plan that we can rally around and make sure that we're meeting not only our master plan goals and our redevelopment ready community goals, but also our maybe personal goals of what we would like to see within the city. So I would like to present the annual report, but perhaps, Chair, we can have just a brief overview of the work plan and discuss more in detail in the April meeting of what the actual objectives of the Planning Commission are for the work plan.
I'm glad you said April, because given what we just went through, and we have one more to go.
I got you, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay. So, beginning the presentation of the 2022 annual report, the 2022 annual report, we have our Planning Commission membership, which we do have to amend. I noticed that earlier today. We will include you, Commissioner Wanda Moody. Thank you for joining our team. And we will also acknowledge Councilmember Cobbs Muniz, who was in the room earlier, but we will add them along with former Chair Tim Palazzolo, in recognizing them with all their service that they've provided. We also have a meetings overview, and the Planning Commission met 10 times, which satisfies the requirement of 4 meetings.
Commissioner Lubeck has a question.
Okay, you said something about Commissioner Moody, who I don't believe joined the Planning Commission until 2023.
That is correct. right? Or Commissioner Moody, when did you join?
Yeah, so Commissioner Moody joined in 2023.
Then we're good.
And when did,
Special meeting.
and when did Commissioner Munez, now Councilperson Munez, join? I don't remember, to be honest. Was she was part of it in December, right?
She was,
She was? Okay.
was,
Okay,
for quite a number of months.
okay.
And then, when she was appointed to council, that's when Ms. Moody joined us.
You'll be on next year's report. Or this year's report.
Okay, and moving on to the
Oh.
planning,
Hold on.
Mara, sorry, have a
Hello.
question.
no worries,
And
Secretary.
I don't remember, I might not be remembering this correctly, but in the annual report, didn't we also, well, we may have before, but do we need to include the attendance of the commissioners for the year?
I know we've always done that in the past, and since there are participation requirements, I think it would also be important to continue to include those so that they're all together. And I know this report, at least always in the past, was to be given to council as a summary of the work that had been done by the planning commission.
Correct.
for the year.
So I do
Since
remember
they are
that.
the ones that are reviewing that, I would like to see that continue.
I would concur with my fellow commission members.
Chair, just so you know, it's not required for us to provide the membership detailed participation of everyone.
But you've set the bar going above and beyond on so many things. We're just going to add one more to it,
What is your desire?
to include membership. All right, to
Attendance.
attendance, I'm sorry. Attendance of the membership.
I know it may not be a state requirement, but I believe as long as we meet the state minimums, we can also put some extra things on there that we desire.
See what happens when you go above and beyond the queen of the parking agreement and all this other stuff? Now we expect more from you.
That's
Aren't there,
okay.
the attendance requirements are actually, aren't they, not the bylaw, there's.
In the bylaws.
The bylaws.
yeah.
They are in the bylaws,
So this is just
we need to have
reaffirming
a,
what's in the bylaws. So I think it is important.
If you want it, we will produce it.
Thank you.
do we need to vote on that?
No. Okay, so moving on to the bulk of the annual report. It's the actual report of what you did by month when you had meetings. So we have this table created of the meeting date, type of project, what the location of the project is, brief description of the project, what the request was, what the planner's report said, and how the planning commission voted. So from January to December, we have an overview of what the development items were at the table. And you can see this shout out over here from June to December. We hosted great conversations on the proposed zoning ordinance update.
I don't think we denied one thing.
Tabled a few.
We tabled a few, but we didn't deny anything. And people say we're not business friendly.
Show them the report, Chair.
you.
Okay, so we can go back to this, but I'll keep going just so you understand what else is in the report. We also synthesized all of our progress that we made on the zoning ordinance updates. So we wanted to provide that knowledge within the report. So we created new zoning districts, new schedule of regulations, amended our parking standards, added more options for nonconformities, clarified our development plan reviews, and added more processes for the planned unit development, all those great things. And then again, where McKenna goes above and beyond is we also wrote an annual report progress for the master plan. And this is all because the Redevelopment Ready Communities program requires an annual update of the city's progress to visualize the master plan. So we created this table that outlines the projects and master plan priority projects and master plan timeline. Either it's A or B or 1 or 2. This is all referenced in the master plan. And you can see the code here. The code just makes it easy. Green means we nailed it. We're meeting at master plan expectations. Orange means we probably have a little higher priority here. And yellow means we're cruising. We're addressing the topic at hand. Just so you know, a lot of these green items are, as you can see, brought to us because we are updating our master plan. So all of these our zoning ordinance, thank you. So all of these initiatives that the master plan guides us to do are being addressed with our zoning ordinance update. So that's incredible, you guys. Good job over here. We're nailing it. And then the orange, just so you know, so we don't leave anyone hanging, the orange components are addressed in the work plan, the following work plan. So anything that's orange that is a little higher priority, it needs to be addressed. Like, for example, A and ongoing, in A and 1, these are higher priority, so they will be addressed in the work plan, but C is not that high, so I have not included that in the work plan for this year, the proposed work plan. And then we could talk about the proposed work plan, but before doing that,
In April.
yeah, okay, well, before doing that, I was gonna ask if you have any questions about the annual report.
Any questions? There is something off topic from the annual report, but I do want us to consider it, and it doesn't have to be something now, maybe next meeting. I'd like to potentially amend our bylaws and have it include that every active member of the planning commission fills out their disclosure form in January with the election of officers. Now, if somebody moves on and city council appoints somebody in the interim before that, then it's up to the city manager to do that. But I think it's important that as a sitting body, that as we elect officers at the beginning of the year, so should we fill out the disclosure form and be done with it and hand it to the city administrator, whoever's here at the time, whether it's Ms. Holman or Otis or whatever, and make sure everything is on the record, because there's no reason why we can't ever, we can set the bar for a lot of commissions. That's what I'm gonna say. So I'd like to amend our bylaws at some point. So I just want to put that out there. Maybe we can discuss it next month. I just feel it's important that we're walking the talk.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you.
If I can ask a question of the city attorney, who is already looking up what the provisions are for revising the bylaws.
No, I just wrote down that Mr. Chair wants to amend the bylaws regarding the annual disclosures.
And I know the bylaws describe the procedure that needs to take place to do that.
I think he was just raising it as a discussion item. We could maybe put it on the agenda for the April meeting, and as there is a consensus, then we can move forward.
Thank you. All right. Is that my piece? So can we get a motion to approve the annual report, or do you need to give any more?
Well, don't anybody second this motion until we're sure that's what we want to do. But I was going to make a motion to table the approval of the Planning Commission annual report and 2023 work plan until our April meeting. Well, we're not going over the 2023 work plan right now. Let's approve it all as one item.
And do you want to see the attendance included in that?
Yes, that's one thing that does need to be added to the annual report. So that would be my reasoning for wanting to table it. Now that we've had the discussion, if the discussion is over, somebody can support that motion to table.
Support.
We have motion and support to table the new business item C, consider approving the 2022 Planning Commission Annual Report and 2023 Work Plan. Any discussion after that? Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Lubeck?
Yes, and you can't discuss after there's been a motion and support for tabling. Cotton picking parliamentary procedure.
May I continue?
Please.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Ms. Naylor?
Yes.
Ms. Moody?
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde?
Yes.
Chairman DeHaan?
Yes. All right. Ready for the next one? All right, Ms. Brazaszewski. Item 5, unfinished business. Consider recommending approval to City Council for the special land use request of Moses Rose's Shark Tale, 17375 8 Mile 20709 Kelly Road, and 20715, as well as 20717 Kelly Road. You're on.
Okay, so the Planning Commission is familiar with the 8 Mile and Kelly project. This is another project seeking, one out of the 3 projects seeking a special land use permit and site plan approval to operate a medical marijuana provisioning center. The Planning Commission saw the applicant in February, and since then, the applicant has made considerable improvements to their special land use request and site plan request that we'll discuss in the next agenda item. Considering these improvements, does the chair and the body wish that I talk about the subject site improvements and community benefits again?
Do we need to review the items that we had last month?
No, but in light of an earlier discussion we had about what is allowed, not allowed within distances of facilities, it got me to be thinking that a proposed dog park is actually part of this project. You know, we had distance requirements from parks. So,
CVO though?
But it wouldn't be a city park, it would just be a proposed piece of property that they're turning into a park-like structure. It's not being given to the city. It's private, it's gonna be private property, correct?
Yes.
that's why the previous discussion got me to thinking is just how does this fit in or not fit in?
If the Planning Commission is more comfortable, we can call it a dog green space.
A dog entertainment facility?
There you go. A canine green space.
I mean, I know this is a little bit of nitpicking, but.
Just a little?
Just a little bit.
So, Chair, it might be important to discuss the relevant community, or the site upgrades. So, the project is estimated to be worth $3.3 million, and there's a couple different buildings involved. There's 2, here, I'll show you. So 2 buildings will be demolished, and 1 will be reoccupied. You can see it on the screen here. The Mobile 1 Lube Express East Point will be demolished. And the site involves a leaking underground storage tank that the applicant has agreed to pay for phase 1 and 2 of the environmental assessment and bring the site back to appropriate environmental standards as directed by the Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. So that is one community benefit that the applicant is proposing. I think it might be the greatest benefit to the project. And they're also including resurfacing of the alleyway, creating a dog green space and community garden, providing public art and planter boxes along 8 Mile and Kelly, and providing electric vehicles charging stations, and perhaps occasionally hosting a food truck. They also will provide a basketball court and batting cages at Memorial Park. They will also provide community educational seminars, charitable donation to the East Detroit Tiger Cats, and public art and planter boxes along 8 Mile and Kelly. Upon review of the revised site plan, the planning department issues a recommendation to Planning Commission to recommend the special land use to City Council, with the required and recommended conditions in the planner's review and the engineer's letter. And we also have a topic of conversation that perhaps we won't bring up, but it's the same about dedicating some of the parking to public use. And since we don't want to do that, the motion is quite simple, perhaps. But that's all I have. The applicant is in the room to address any questions.
I know that it wasn't last meeting, I think the meeting before, the gentleman who has the drugstore. Has that situation been handled? I believe he came up and spoke that his business was being displaced or something like that. Has that situation been handled?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
It's been a while, Mr. Aiello.
Yes, good to see all of you. Chris Aiello, 32411 Mound Road, attorney for the petitioner. Yes, that has been addressed and rectified.
Okay. Any questions? Ms. Brzezinski, anything? Commission?
I have a question. The other two facilities, they offer the city additional community benefits. And I don't see any, unless I'm missing it, any additional community benefits that this facility is offering. Yes.
Gotta be true, because they did offer the dog park.
The dog event center.
So, some cash.
The outdoor dog entertainment facility.
Don't need a parking agreement.
Chair?
Yes, go.
Commissioner Moody, on page, I mean, it's probably hard because you have a huge packet, but page 2 of this project review, you can see the additional community benefits. And these are the items that I just recited, such as the installation of the basketball court and batting cages at Memorial Park, the community educational seminars. It's on the screen right here too. The donation to the East Detroit Tigers Cats.
No cash. To the cash.
I will say that when I was going through this, when we first got them some months ago, I noticed that there was, I don't want to say a disparity, but let's just say there was a large chasm between what some of the people who have been given these licenses or the potential to have these licenses, there was a large chasm between some of them, so.
Chair?
Yes.
If I may, that's why I underlined the fact that the applicant is remediating the site.
Yes.
That, I don't know the cost estimate to that, but I do know that it is a couple $100,000 to remediate a site, and they're providing it to be back to environmental standards.
And I do agree that's a substantial benefit.
How long of a process is it to get that land clean?
Well, we'll have to bring the environmental engineers out over there, and then you pull back the surface and you start testing and figuring out what's there and what you have to do if it stays capped or uncapped. That'll be up to the state of Michigan.
But it's going to be, it would be a complete remediation regardless of whatever they discover underneath that concrete.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission?
What does charitable donation to East Detroit Tiger Cats mean? What is that?
I've had great discussions with him, and that's actually my favorite part of this entire project is buying uniforms and doing whatever else I've historically done for coaching, hockey, taking them out to pizza. I mean, just anything you would do, I look at it as a father, and that's how I'm going to treat the East Detroit Tiger Cats. Just participate with them. I think it'd be awesome to be on the sidelines and have fun with them, and afterwards, pizza, uniforms, cleats, if, you know, whatever I think we can afford, make them our little posse. and they're pretty excited about joining us. And we've had some discussions about this, how the look should be and what we should do. And I'm pretty excited with the head coach. I can't remember his name, but we had some pretty good talks. And so actually really excited to see Moses Rose's jerseys on him. And he's all good with that. And I just think there's a little line somewhere we're going to have to draw and figure out as a participating corporate sponsor. But I think it's going to be awesome.
How did you pick that, out of curiosity, how did you pick the Tiger Cats versus any other team or?
They were recommended to us, so I don't think we stayed out late night looking for softball teams to sponsor in East Point, or any other teams, but they were recommended to us through, I can't remember who it was, but couldn't think of a better sport than football, kids football, to participate in on Friday nights and have some fun with them. I coached hockey for 7 years, and there was no better time than the 10 and 8-year-olds where
Mr. Chair.
I could bring in stickies and gummies.
Otis just let me know, can't hear Chris speaking.
Oh, can you lean in a little bit further, please?
I'm sorry. So as a hockey coach for 7 years with 10-year-olds and 8-year-olds, there was no better time where you could enjoy life as a dad with your kid and put stickers on their helmet and give them Gatorade and gum as a prize or jelly beans as prizes for scoring goals, just all good stuff.
Go on, Ms. Luke.
I'm sorry, I have to say this because it's in my head. Is it kind of odd that Moses Rose's marijuana facility is going to sponsor children?
So to answer that question candidly, I had the same feeling. I didn't know what to say until I talked to the head coach. And he said the whole team's in favor of it. Everybody was pretty excited about it. And I said, well, I don't know where we're going to draw the line or how we do this. I said, but we'll do it hand in hand together. I said, honestly, we have a great logo. And I said, maybe just the logo itself, or maybe our name doesn't go on there. I think from my point of view, I think it'll be a democracy vote on the team, how they want us to be involved, at what aspect. I'm just excited to be on the sidelines. I want to help coach a little bit and really get into that. But I'm not sure, I'm going to let them tell me how they want this to be done because I am sensitive to the nature of my business.
I think a logo would be sufficient.
Yeah.
We don't want little walking advertisements that are underage to begin with.
Yeah.
And I would also encourage you to use local businesses like Sports Haven if you're going to do uniforms and cleats and things like that.
Sure.
I think that would be a nice nod to the city.
Yep, for sure.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Albright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Gatson is just asking if all the commissioners could speak more into the microphone because it's not getting picked up on the video feed. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Ms. Brashevsky, do you have anything else? Going once? All right. Do we have somebody willing to make a motion? If Ms. Brashevsky frames it for us.
Okay. On page 5, I move to recommend approval of the proposed special land use for a medical marijuana provisioning center at 20715-17 and 20709 Kelly Road, parcel ID 021432358019, 021432258018, 021432358017 to City Council, with the required and recommended conditions outlined in the planner's review dated February 11, 2023, and the engineer's letter dated December 12, 2022, and based on the following findings of fact, the applicant will provide the agreed-upon community benefits, and these benefits create a net positive impact in the community. And with the community benefits and recommendations and requirements from the planner, the project is harmonious with the master plan and an improvement to the community, and the applicant will provide all the required and recommended conditions as outlined in the planner and engineer letters.
Is anyone willing to make that motion that she just so eloquently spoke?
I make a motion that we, turn on my mic. Make a motion that we accept what she just read to us.
We have motion, do we have support?
Support.
We have motion and support. Any comments? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Ms. Moody,
Yes.
Ms. Naylor,
Yes.
Mr. Broll,
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde,
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Mr. Lubeck,
Yes.
Chairman DeHunt.
Yes. Moving on to item B, consider approving, should we make a motion on this one? No, what am I doing? Been a long week. Consider approving the site plan for Moses Rosa Shark Tale, 17375 8 Mile, 20709 Kelly Road, and 20715 20717 Kelly Road. Ms. Brazaszewski, you're up.
Thank you, Chair. So again, the Planning Commission, or the Planning Department's reviewed the site plan, and we recommend approval of the site plan as outlined in our review. We have a couple items to discuss with you. We're trying out, again, this new format that Commissioner Broll catalyzed for us. So we've outlined the areas that we would like to have more conversations around, but left out the requirements because these are requirements based on the zoning ordinance. So one conversation is that we would like to allow the CMU block, as we did with all of the other buildings, as a material and canvas for a mural, granted that the mural is constructed within 1 year of receiving the business license. And additionally, the applicant must provide a communication or transition plan, or, I mean, it's up to you. They can provide or not provide a communication or transition plan to the existing business owners. As we've discussed, I think the applicant here addressed that they have communicated to the existing business owners, but the recommendation here is to provide a communication and transition plan. And another item of discussion is to understand the material used for the vertical siding, standing seam siding, and understand if that's a material that the Planning Commission would like to allow. So do you want to discuss those three things now, and then I'll move on to the other talking points?
Yes, please.
We're all good with that. Yeah, we're all good with that.
Okay.
What is the material used for the vertical standing seam?
It's a 20 gauge steel siding.
Steel?
Yep. And then we're just painting the brick in front and the block on the back wall or along the alley where the mural's gonna be.
Chair? I'm happy you brought that up. We do have a clarifying question, planning commissioners, if you follow page 6, number 3, we need to understand what the facade is. So it says a brick veneer facade. However, you were occupying the building, and I think the building material in place is face brick.
Yes, with,
Okay, so we need to correct the site plan to say face brick and not brick veneer.
Okay.
Existing face brick, if you.
Yep.
Mr. Lubeck.
Okay, I know it's been a month, but for some reason in my mind, the mural was going to be on I thought on the south facade.
We showed one in the front before, but in discussions, they decided it will just be the mural, as we talked about having the alleys along Kelly Road before, that was going to be kind of a point for the people to see, and that was going to be kind of a thing I know you were fixing up, so we're just doing a mural along, it's going to be on the back of the building towards the alley.
Okay. Step 1 in art in the alleys.
Moving along, we need to clarify that the glazing, the storefront glazing is is transparent, and in the elevation drawing, the glass here, I believe, was removed. So I guess we need to clarify where there's glass, and this glass in the floor plan shows that it's looking into the merchandise area. And I know you communicated with me, we all know that state of Michigan regulates anyone seeing the merchandise from the street. So if we do have this window here, we need to know how we're going to screen it. So maybe we can talk about that.
We're doing that in Waterford right now. It's a screen. It's about, I don't know how to explain the product that goes on the window, but it's a screen with, I think it's etched with, our logo in one pane. But, it's gonna be blocked so you can't see it. I mean, you can't see through it.
So we would just need the site plan to reflect that the glass is transparent when it doesn't look into the merchandise. So transparency is recommended. As much as transparency as possible is recommended, and just indicate what material you're using to screen.
We can have the transparency along the west side, because that is the lobby and that is a hallway there, so that whole side will be transparent.
And here.
Yes.
Sure. Okay. So we also recommend, perhaps, if the Planning Commission wants this, to provide more architectural variation along the east facade. And what we mean by that is we would like to avoid any blank wall. And walls over a square footage of 1,500 square feet are considered to be blank walls if they don't have any elements such as, I mean, if we keep this glass here, this helps. But we also use art to help with this, or decorative brick. The previous applicant used industrial louvers, so it's a metal sculpture that they attached to their front facade to add a little bit more activation along the site. So the consideration upon Planning Commission is to see if you would like to require additional architectural variation along the east facade, because it is over 1,500 feet.
Facing Kelly. It looks like a big black box. It looks forgive me for saying this, it looks no different than the ones I see going down 8 Mile that are boxy. There is no design element. Granted, it's nicer than what's there now. There is nothing remarkable about this building besides the fact that it's big and black with the Moses roses. There's not a lick of architectural interest. The only thing I see is the name, which as a business owner, I guess I understand that, but there's not an awning over a window, there's nothing. It's just kind of boring. And, we got a cinder block, unused building across the street that's an eyesore in what was supposed to be a high-end boutique that has never transpired, that we approved, by the way. I'm just looking for something a little prettier.
Curious on this design, you've changed it since last month, is that correct?
Correct.
Isn't this what you guys were doing last month?
Yep, that was the one before.
Right. So you're going away from that?
That mural went to the back of the building.
This mural still exists on the back of the building?
So the conversation was with Wendy and the administration and us, and it was, I guess, a preference to put that on the back, but I don't think that color and all of that ornamental look is going to be what Wendy's gonna design. I think Wendy has to go before a committee in East Point to get the mural design approved, I think.
somebody comment on that? Is that true? It has to go in front of a committee for approval?
Just needs to not be a sign.
Ms. Holman, do you have any input here? Yes.
I was saying it just needs to not be a sign. And I think you guys decide that, right? That's all.
Okay, so I have a comment on this particular design. I can't unsee it. If you look at the red part right in the middle of it, it looks like a fist with a middle finger. I mean, it just
right.
does.
That's
It just
not
does.
design,
You're right.
was it? No, it was just, I think.
I can't unsee it.
We will never unsee
I
that.
can't unsee it.
So that was a design, I don't.
There was more
Right?
when we did it.
So, I mean, clearly, we can't have that. That's why I'm asking if there's a design review process, great. I can see you guys are all like, you
We
see
hadn't
it
seen
now.
it till you pointed it out. No, we can't unsee it, like you said.
Yes.
Now I look at it closer.
On this rendering that's up on the screen,
Yes.
where is the entrance to the building?
On the south side,
Should be right here.
Okay. I mean, it was very obvious in the finger painting drawing.
Yeah, that entrance is gone in front.
All right, so why, but I'm sorry, refresh me, why did it move to the back? Even though hopefully this is not gonna be.
Mara made us do it.
Mara made you.
There was
I'm
an
just
entrance
kidding.
on the side, that's where.
Well, that's because at the last meeting, somebody pitched a concept of art in the alleys.
Yes.
So they want to
Yes.
put it on the alley
Yes.
side of the building,
I'm sure the neighbors would love to see it.
Chair?
depending on the
Minus
nature of
middle
it.
finger.
Yeah, no middle finger. Yes, please.
Okay. Come on, Chris. No, Mara did not make you do
I
it.
was just kidding.
So the conversation that we had is, this is the back of the building right now. And the facade is constructed of concrete masonry unit blocks. And the ordinance does not allow concrete masonry unit blocks. So, the only way that we allow it, that we've been allowing for other applicants, if there's a mural there. But if the applicant wanted to provide a different exterior, then we would consider that. We did not require any murals to be in the back of the building.
She made a great point, and she's right. The mural should go back there. It's just because that's what it looks like. And I don't know, I don't have a creative bone in my body. And so I can't see what she can see, and I know she's right, because there's nothing else we can do back there. I can't coin the sides. I can't bring a soffit up. I can't bring my roof up. I have stairs, a door, 4 windows that have to stay, and she's right. And then I have all the utilities on the back. And so let's hope Wendy creates a bang-out mural that, the neighborhood will love and the city will love, and from what I understand from her artistic ability, it will happen.
I don't know, that back of that building, the way it looks is almost like giving the neighborhood a finger.
No, we won't.
It's so ugly.
We won't put a finger.
No, I wasn't saying the mural, I'm saying as ugly as it looks back there.
It's not pretty.
It is what it is. It's a building that has utility affixed to it, windows and a staircase, and it's been like that since its inception. We're gonna come along and try to beautify it. And, from what I understand from her and what she's done in the park, I think, we'll be good. We'll be good. We'll get there.
That's okay, because his neighbor is Max Beauty Supply, and they have enough illumination to.
Yeah, they do, because I want to put those lights
I
in my
think it's all in the
windows, too.
windows.
Go ahead, give it a try.
What's he doing? He went in all the buildings and took pictures of all
Yeah.
those lights? That was the first thing the other night I was driving by. I said, I wonder if we could put those in our light.
Yeah, you don't do that. You really don't want to do that. East Point Commissioner picketing building with ropes lights.
Right.
I think that's the one that started all of this with the rope lights, isn't it?
Ms. Brashevsky, can you rein us back in here?
Sure, I'd love to. So do you have any feedback on the architectural variation, just so I know when I might be creating a motion in the future?
There is no architectural design to it. It's a box.
Okay, so perhaps.
So, may I ask a question? I don't know how I got this kid. I don't have the, painting with the finger. I have this as a design. Is this an old one, dude?
Yep, was an original concept one.
That was an old original,
The finger painting was from last month.
nice. I like this one.
It's got the design elements to it.
Now we gotta go look that close.
I think,
I mean, this one wouldn't take that much, like where you have all the black, if you put some of that trespass they had and across the front, and just maybe build out on the front, some in that awning space. So you have your name.
I share some of the concern. I am looking at it and I am studying it, but, Amara, are you referring to the lower half underneath, between the glass, that area? That is over 1,500 square feet between the glass and which is the brick?
Chair? I'm referring to this entire panel of east facade. This is over 1,500.
Change the paint color.
Because we go around the other side also on this street.
Yeah, go back to
This is good. This has design elements.
Somebody gave it to them.
You get a bootleg copy?
Did that one keep
that's
the
what we was
windows
working
up top? The one he's referring to?
This was from the first factory.
That was where you had that big open window on the end.
Yeah.
And I know that was the issue with the windows.
So the windows up on top have historically been a problem in this building, and you're gonna laugh at this, but pigeons roost there, and they've never been able to get rid of them. And they do everywhere, and they have for years, and they can't, because there's a ledge, for those upper windows, and that's birds, and especially pigeons, have flocked for years. They even put nails or tacks, and it just never solved the problem. I know the owners for the last 20 years. And so the contractor said, you do not want that. We have never been able to get rid of those pigeons and problems. And that's part of the design is to be more operational than, I guess.
Pigeon friendly.
Yeah, pigeon friendly.
for operational.
Yeah.
But even if you, just a recommendation, if you even remove the windows, like you have with the logo, where you have the logo showing, maybe just some variation in the top and then a different color at the bottom instead of the same. I don't know if that is the same color, but it appears everything is one color, less monotone. So if you had some paint between the, I think this is a great design. I don't know who did it, but I would maybe do a modification of this and that and.
Can we show that to Ms. Broszewski?
She probably has it on her computer still.
Yeah.
Yeah, put some variation, make a little difference in the height, and then the coloring on the bottom half.
That's not a box.
And then a surface, maybe some surface.
Well,
Can we approve this with our ability to work with the administration and get our designer involved on the sides of that? Is that possible? Just an aesthetic improvement? I'll turn it right over to the design team and tell them to do something. I understand what you're saying. I kind of see it myself.
I'm thinking maybe on that lower portion,
Yeah.
a couple of metal sculptures on the
Okay.
wall or something like that.
Is this something that we can handle administratively between city administration and yourself?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, we'll work with her and send her some. I'll turn it right over to the designers, and I kind of agree with you. And so I seen the same thing you did. I just didn't know how to say it tonight. So.
Okay, Chair, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
What's that?
I said, thank you. So I'm moving on.
Yeah.
Page 59 of the site plan submission. Let's go here. Okay, so this is the actual site plan, as you're familiar with, everyone. So the next item to discuss for the special land use approval is if the applicant should provide black aluminum ornamental fencing along the dog park. And there is a comment here that's floating, but it doesn't show that if the fence should be at the dog park or not. We also recommended in a previous review to remove this light pole, the freestanding light pole at the dog park, so that we could improve the ambiance of, I'm sorry, the dog green space, so we can improve the ambiance for visitors. And the applicant has added 4, we can go here to the landscaping and photometric plan. The applicant has added 4 bollards lighting, which is what we recommend to have a more pleasant ambiance. But we would also recommend that they remove this freestanding light.
I don't object to moving the light. I am concerned about 8 Mile traffic and not having a fence, if, to some degree.
I never said remove the fence, Planning Commission. It's just that we recommend that the material of the fence be specified, and if we were to choose, it would be black aluminum ornamental fencing.
That probably would work. I don't think it would obscure anybody driving, black ornamental. The dogs would be safe, they wouldn't get through there. Yeah, I'm all good with that.
Okay,
Well, are we talking German Shepherds or Chihuahuas?
So I have the fence in my
Shepherds will
house.
take care of the
and-
chihuahuas.
And you can put the separation distance really small so that little dogs can't get through.
Sounds like a moot point, but is there going to be a water spigot at the park for the animals, for people that might be using it?
I don't know. I haven't thought of that.
Gotta have something to drink. If you're sitting there with a dog, and it's hot out, dog has to have water.
BYOB?
I was probably gonna start Perrier, but I haven't figured that one out yet.
There is.
At Kelly?
Yeah, no, there, I believe there's a water spigot at, 10 Mile. Yeah, I believe that there is a water spigot.
Yeah, but that's
I get it. Valid question. The little fellas need to get a drink too.
I will look into that. I
Thank
seriously
you.
will. If I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
have a dog park, I want them to be safe. I want it to be a nice place. If we can, if I have water running underneath there somewhere, it may not be too hard to just cut in and put a spigot there. It may not be that difficult.
But you will probably have to winterize that.
Well, you just turn it off at the source somewhere. So that would have to be all looked at. I don't want to obligate myself to it, but I will look into that.
Thank you. Uh-oh, she's on the move.
We just need to set her up with a microphone up over there.
She might break out into Volare, though.
Okay, well-known as a dog lover owner. Dog parks that we go to, some of them have the spigots. It becomes the best mud puddle ever. So we prefer to bring our own, with our own bowls. Just saying.
I like mud.
That's how they do it at the park.
That simplifies it.
That's a good point.
You don't have to worry about winterization.
Mara, I thought about that too. Does it have to, so she brings up a great point. What if it's AstroTurf instead of grass to eliminate all of that? Is that a possibility?
Yes.
So that we don't have to cut and we don't have weeds and we don't have ugly scene. I just have AstroTurf, which looks the best. And the dogs can't break their ankles, I don't think, on AstroTurf or get ACL problems.
Turf toe.
Chair.
Turf toe.
Please.
I just consulted my colleague who's a senior principal planner, and she recommends AstroTurf.
Sweet. Perfect. AstroTurf.
In honor of Jetson's dog, right?
Yes, for sure.
It sounded a lot like Scooby-Doo.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's cool. Maybe a little monogram in there too.
Big rose.
Maybe we put 5 yards, 10 yards, maybe.
Maybe you put a big old
That'd be
rose
cool.
in it.
That
You're
would be
paying
cool.
for it.
Yeah.
Hey, that's an idea.
All right, moving on before it
Mini
gets
grid
into
item.
tomorrow. Ms. Brzezowski.
So we also, in the site plan, need clarity on the 6-foot screening wall fence design. In the site plan, it says that an additional 6-foot screening wall will be provided, but, as you can see, there's already a concrete pad here. So we would need the site plan to be amended to say that, whatever, like a 4-foot screening wall will be provided.
We will continue the wall like we discussed and build it right on top of that footing.
Great, yeah, that's what I thought. We just need that to be represented in the site plan.
Okay.
Okay. I believe that that fence that you are seeing there was a result of a variance that was granted years ago. Because at that time, the homeowner did not want a brick wall along that property. So that might be something that you would want to talk to the current homeowner about, as well as find out if and actually when a variance on that was granted.
Chair. So there was a variance granted at the property, but it wasn't for the homeowner. The homeowner preferred a masonry brick wall. But the variance was granted to the project because they had an engineer come out and survey the property to see if removing the wall would be a detriment to the neighboring property. And the engineer said that it would be because the alley is at a lower grade than the residential property, so tampering with any screening device along the property line might result in flooding. So that is why no screening wall, no brick screening wall has been required. Now we're revisiting the conversation. A 6-foot wall needs to be provided, and we recommend updating this wood paneling to be to have a uniform flow of, what is this, concrete, stamped brick concrete?
They're panels.
Stamped brick panels?
That's your panels. So, yeah, we'll make that one level all the way across. So it's 6
And the
foot.
homeowner is okay with this? Because that looks like a pretty expensive wooden fence that was installed.
If the homeowner doesn't want it, I don't want to do it if the homeowner doesn't want to do it.
I think we should get some feedback, Chair, from the homeowner.
Although, I'm sure the homeowner was notified that this was taking place tonight.
I can handle it.
Is that owner occupied? Is it a rental? Apparently, they didn't seem too concerned, but they are likely the kind that would come back to council and start screaming that you did all this without me knowing about it.
Well, they may not have known the project included removing of the fence unless they're more in depth to read every page that we have, this big Bible. So they might have thought, oh, it doesn't bother me, the business, but they may not have known it.
Wow,
Change the fence. I think it should be a conversation had with the owners.
I am in awe that someone actually knew more about an old variance than me. You guys did your homework. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I also like to shout out to city administration for providing the variance.
So we can handle this
Well,
administratively?
wait a minute.
We'll discuss this?
Why would we consult with the homeowner? We've always had applicants put up walls to protect the homeowner, unless the homeowner came out and expressed it. The homeowner did not come out and express it. We should put a masonry wall there. It's an alleyway. That's the whole point of the masonry walls, to protect the homeowner from the noise, the traffic, and there will be more traffic probably through there now, so I think it's more relevant now than it perhaps was. I would also add that fence looks pretty good in this picture, but I was pretty close to it, and it does not look as good close up. It's a wooden fence. It needs maintenance as well. I mean, I don't know how old the fence is, but that should be a masonry wall.
Somebody put a filter on it?
What?
Somebody put a filter on it? Because it looks pretty good here.
It does look pretty good, I know, but it doesn't look great.
Yeah, but it looks like from that photo was
By the way,
4 years old.
the
5
fence,
years old.
the top of the fence is 8 feet, which is out of compliance, right? You can't have an 8-foot fence at the very top of the fence.
At that time, you could.
Well, you can't now. So, for that reason as well, it needs to be a 6-foot masonry wall.
Chair, the standard says a minimum 6-foot wall.
Maximum.
You could put an 8-foot masonry or a 10-foot if you want.
If planning commission grants it.
Okay, a little history on that is they had 4, 6, and 8-foot walls at one point in time. And rather than creating a lot of nonconformances, it was much easier to write the ordinances minimum of 6 feet. So that you wouldn't be getting into developments situations where you're telling somebody, cut the top 2 feet off of that wall because it's not in compliance.
And we've got 95% of our alleyways have, I don't know, 95%, maybe it's not right, maybe it is, I don't know. We've got a large percent of our alleyways already have masonry walls. This is a great example of when we should get this wall done right now. Get her done.
Chair and
Please.
Commissioner Roll. So the proposal here is to remove the wood and replace it with this concrete stamped, it looks like brick. So replace it with this, the neighboring adjacent material. So we have a uniform look throughout the site.
Sounds good.
Just one quick, I understand your position. I think I'd rather knock on the neighbor's door and ask their opinion of what they want done. And if they don't mind that to continue, I'd hate for me to start taking that down and someone come outside and say, what are you doing? Now I have a problem, and I don't want that. And it's their backyard. I don't want that. This is where they live. I don't want to disturb it. If they like that and they want Mark Twain to come out and paint it, I'll get Mark Twain to come out and paint it. If that makes them happier than a brick wall, I'd rather do it that way. I think that would be a better neighborly thing to do than me just knocking down that, one day showing up with a saw and knocking down somebody's fence. They may not like that. So if you don't mind, let me handle it administratively and a can of paint and a nice knock on the door and a conversation, and I think it'd be
We've afforded
good.
them the opportunity. We sent out a notice went to them that there's a project going on behind you.
I know,
next door.
but
We
then,
we don't normally double back and ask for their permission. if we
I know, but
show
they're
up.
gonna do it to me. They're
Yeah,
gonna,
but we go through this process with everybody. You're not the first applicant that may run into that. And I'm not saying it's good, but that's what the ordinance says.
We've made exceptions in the past, and the times that we have made exceptions in the past is when somebody physically came in here and said, I don't want it. Kind of like that man who's not very happy with me when I mentioned putting a masonry wall up.
On this triangle.
If somebody came in and
But
said,
we also
I don't
had a
want it.
moment, too, where the two ladies, they were not able to be here at the meeting, and they made it known to the business owner, and then the business owner conveyed what they said, because they were not able to be at the meeting. I think it's just, you say that variance was all issued for that to occur. Someone is accustomed to that. We don't know whose property that is now, if it's the same owner. I don't think it really would be that bothersome, just to be, because it is a community, and they're gonna be the most impacted by the community, should they just be free for all? I would be of the recommendation, we at least have a conversation. Either way, we'll be in compliance, but let's just see
Ms. Brzezowski, your
what your thoughts are.
thoughts?
Well, since we do have some back and forth, and thanks, Chair, since we do have some back and forth discussion about the wall, should we remove it, should we not, and what we want in terms of architectural variation, maybe this just means that we have to table the site plan. It's up to you, Chair.
Waited this long.
No. Can't we handle this administratively? I'll go, you or me, or we'll go over there and knock the door. It's simple. Do you like that, or would you like me to continue with the remainder of the brick?
I think she had something to say.
Okay.
Of course, I can always engage in a conversation with our developers and, continue our business-friendly nature. But it's up to the planning commission on what level of discussion you want us to address administratively, or, what's your threshold?
Can I say, Chair?
We'll go here and then we'll go
You
here.
got your finger up.
Go here and here.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be a mural.
The mural.
This is such a minor part of the entire site plan that I would hate to see progress stalled over this wall fence issue. Is there perhaps a way we can approve the rest of the site plan and then circle back to address this portion of it after I happen to be the person living behind where they want to put a brick wall up, and y'all can get mad at me all you want for the current ordinance we have for masonry walls. But in the old days, people would go to work, they'd come home at night, find their fence and their landscaping gone, and a brick wall along one side of their property, and it ticked them off. We are primarily a residential community, and I think we do need to give some credence to the desires of the residents in some instances. And putting a brick wall in their backyard, I think, is one of those instances. If maybe administration could send them a letter and says, hey, you've got so many days to respond. If not, your fence is being replaced with a brick wall. Just so, you know, we know how bogged down we get in these site plans. You get somebody that doesn't know what questions to ask, make a phone call about a project. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they were confused. I guess I'd like to err on a little bit of compassion for the person living in that house.
And in addition to just sending a letter, I also think that a phone call needs to happen from the building department, because let's face it, people don't necessarily pay attention to snail mail anymore.
If it comes.
Yeah, and quite often, emails now are starting to be ignored too. So I think this is a twofold approach. If you're gonna do this, send them a letter, follow it up with a phone call from the building department. If no response, we've done our due diligence, their wall comes down.
And if they come in and complain, you just hand them the documentation and says, we tried. We tried, you didn't respond.
So are you comfortable if we approve this with the exception of the wall?
I'm completely comfortable with addressing all of these items administratively.
And this is, you're gonna be able to handle this if we do it this way?
Of course, of course.
You're not gonna have a heart attack if they want a masonry wall after all?
No.
All right. Think about all the lovely art you could put on that masonry wall.
I have been thinking of it. Honestly, I have, because Wendy started out, that was where she was gonna draw her mural, and then it got to the building. So it's on my mind too.
He's got a beautiful finger painting list.
I'm gonna donate that finger painting to you.
All right. So, is there anything else, or can we get a motion here?
Do you want the reality?
I want the reality.
Okay, well, there's also a recommendation to provide a masonry red brick screening wall, those 3-foot screening walls between a public right-of-way and a parking lot, as opposed to the stone veneer and limestone cap screening wall. So we just like the red brick screening wall. That was
That's between the south end. Yep. Remember this.
right here.
Oh,
Here.
Is that on 8 Mile?
8 Mile and Kelly. And this screening wall, just so you guys know, an item that we addressed as a requirement is that the screening wall must be replaced behind the landscaping, so behind the trees and behind the shrubs, so that passersby can enjoy the landscaping. Anyway, and we also would like to clarify and improve the irrigation system for the landscaping in the community garden. And that's it.
well, along Kelly, I can live with the wall, but I don't think I need a wall and shrubs. I don't think both of them are. A nice 3-foot wall, I see that would make it look good, but don't I have my designs there with the block planters that aren't my block planters going in place of that? Don't I have my block planters there?
You have your planting beds over here. This is just the walls going along here.
Right.
Just that decorative landscape wall really along there.
I thought I had planters on this project. something else.
I am going to throw one thought out while you're all looking at plans, or your plans. This is another gateway to Macomb County, and it needs to be pristine and beautiful. And if a wall is not going to make it beautiful, then I don't see a wall being there. If green space is going to make it look beautiful, then we go with green space. This is a gateway. And if we are fortunate at some point to turn Kelly into something more than what it is now, we need a beautiful gate to get into that community. So it needs to be gorgeous.
Why don't we just do the wall and then, welcome to East Point, you know, on the outside of the wall, on the Kelly side, welcome to East Point.
So I do have a question. So where are the planter boxes going? Because I thought that's what was going to
Good
line
question,
the
I had the
street.
same one.
No, it might have been another project that I thought I had
No,
those on.
I'm looking here. We see planter boxes
Do you
along
see
Kelly
them?
and 8 Mile Roads. And I thought they were all nicely artistically drawn. I think that would be
Right.
great. Entrance.
I thought it was this project.
It is this project, based on our renderings.
It's on top?
Chair, sorry, I misspoke too. We actually recommend, or no, require that the applicant remove this wall because it's not necessary. We don't need to screen the dog park or the dog green space and the sidewalk. We just need to screen between a parking lot and public right of way.
Okay?
Where are my planter boxes?
You actually have planter boxes up here.
Mara, will the planter boxes address that or
Proposed
no?
planting beds up here.
I, like you, Commissioner, I'm not sure where the planter boxes are located, but if the applicant, if we would like to propose.
It says along Kelly and 8 Mile Roads in what we have handed out.
So this is what I had a vision. I went to New York and I seen these planter boxes made out of cinder block, and they fill them in with dirt, but they had all artistic designs on the outside of the cinder block, all color flowers and all different colors. It was incredibly artsy, and that's what I had envisioned instead of a wall, creating those planter boxes every. I think they were every planted 1 foot, 2 foot, 4 wide, 8 feet long, and then just using your best design discretion with having Wendy design something on the outside of them. Instead of just a wall and shrubs and normal things that you see everywhere. So we would take the shrubs out of there, we take the wall out, and they would be constructed out of cinder block filled in with dirt, and they're painted, and let Wendy put the design on them. And I thought that would be really artsy and really cool as a welcoming sign to East Point. Instead of a sign and things that happen on a normal basis, it would be really cool. I thought I had pictures of that. I just seen it somewhere. I just
We
seen
do
those
see a
pictures.
copy in our package, what you described.
Is it in that package there?
Planter boxes that are planter boxes.
Yes, and they're all painted with flowers and colors, yes. Yes, and they would come along that, right where the wall is, and those proposed shrubs, and we would put them there.
I would prefer to see this.
In front, yeah.
This be like a downtown zoo. You see that in the movies. You found it?
Yeah.
What's the thought? What's the thought here?
It's a picture in your package.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
Instead of doing a wall.
Instead of the wall along 8 Mile Road?
Along
Right.
Kelly
Yeah.
and 8, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just, she said we don't have to worry about the park now, but just do the Kelly
Right.
side would be really nice, I think.
Yeah, they were being constructed in New York everywhere,
See,
along the
they're-
streets with
most big
flowers and
cities you see
colors.
downtown. Yeah, they did it in front of that Buffalo Wings at downtown.
Do we need to take a break for a minute here?
No, let's keep
Is that
going so
okay?
we can go home.
No?
This is the last thing.
No, it's not.
You got the site plan?
No, we got one more. There's another item on the agenda.
Just the site plan.
Oh, no.
The zoning ordinance.
Chair.
We we table the zoning board.
Yes.
I have no other criteria to address with you regarding this project.
All right.
So, well, is there a consensus on these
Planter boxes?
planter boxes?
Yes, for me, yes.
I mean, if it's something that's gonna be artistic, that's getting a thumbs up. for
Yeah,
me.
they're really cool. Yep, they're really cool.
So on the planter boxes, your company will maintain that?
Yeah, for sure.
And the dog park and all that, right?
Yeah, the dog
For
park.
public consumption, it's privately owned.
Yeah,
Okay.
of course.
I think we should change it to dog playground.
I think it's a decathlon training center for dogs for the USA Olympics coming up, so.
It's
let's
not
just
that
call it
big of a
that.
spot.
Let's just call it that.
All right. So.
So what is it we would need in a motion right now? To
Want me to go
approve a
for it?
site plan, Ms. Brazaszewski?
Please.
Okay, so I recommend to approve, I move to approve the site plan for a medical marijuana provisioning center at 20715-17 and 20709 Kelly Road, parcel ID 021432358-019-018-017, provided that special land use approvals are granted by city council and contingent on the applicant providing the requirements and recommendations as outlined in the planner's review dated February 11, 2023, engineer's letter dated December 12, 2022. We also allow CMU block as a facade material and a canvas for a mural. However, the mural must be constructed within 1 year of receiving the business license. And additionally, we require that the applicant provide a communication and transition plan to existing business owners as the applicant progresses with the site redevelopment. We approve the vertical standing seam siding material, which is steel. The applicant must correct the brick veneer facade material and correct that to say existing face brick material. The applicant must correct the storefront glazing components of the elevation drawings and provide details on how they will screen the southeast corner of the site. The applicant must work with administration to provide more architectural variation to avoid a blank wall along the east facade of the site. The applicant must provide black aluminum ornamental fencing along the dog park. The applicant must remove the proposed freestanding light pole by the dog park. The applicant must, granted, the neighbor approves, the applicant must maintain a 6-foot screening wall with stamped brick effect. The applicant must provide a 3-foot brick screening device as opposed to a stone screening device. Okay, the applicant does not need to provide a screening device. The screening device will be planter boxes. Planter boxes will be along 8 Mile and Kelly. The applicant must maintain the planter boxes. And the applicant must provide an irrigation system for the community garden and landscaping.
So moved.
You make that motion. We have motion and we have support. Any other further discussion? Secretary, please call the roll.
I'm sorry, who was support?
Ms. Naylor.
Thank you. Mr. Lubeck?
Yes.
Ms. Naylor?
Yes.
Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde?
Yes.
Ms. Moody?
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Chairman DeHunt?
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. A shout out to all of you. Thank you very much. Long road here. And then a real shout out to our Northern Light, Mara. Thank you.
I look forward to seeing the pretty flowers.
Oh, one more shout out. We'll see you soon. We're gonna need a little help with recreational. Let's just put the elephant in the room.
Yeah,
One day,
let's not put the elephant in the
All
room.
right,
We
one
already
day
had
we'll
enough
do
bodies over medicinal. Okay, Commission. We have item C bearing down on us. If we don't do anything with it, Ms. Hall might stab us, pun intended. But we're all dying here of exhaustion. So, let's poll the commission on item C. Do we tackle it and keep Laura as our friend, or do we table it and risk her hating us?
Well, if we table it, we get to see her again.
There is an upside to
And
this.
she'll love us.
So, Ms. Ulinski, table or tackle?
Honestly, how much more discussion is there?
Did you miss this?
No, I didn't miss it, but we've been discussing it for quite some time.
So table or tackle?
Didn't we hit a lot of it last month and months before that?
Mhm.
But this is approval of the final draft. This
Table
is like the big one.
Table.
Mr. Broll?
Tackle.
Mr. Lubeck?
Table.
Mr. Lalonde?
Table.
Ms. Moody? Oh. So we're out of luck. It's 4-3, even if I vote to tackle.
We tried, Laura.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Crash and burn.
Wait, I'll change it to tackle.
No trace backs.
Okay, change.
All right, can I get a motion to somebody to table item C? Consider recommending approval to City Council for 2023 zoning ordinance update.
Well, if she's going to stab somebody, I'll beat her to it and fall on the sword, make that motion.
Second.
We have motion and support. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Lubeck?
Yes.
Ms. Naylor?
Yes.
Mr. Broll?
No.
Mr. Lalonde?
Yes.
Ms. Moody?
No.
Ms. Julinski? Yes, since I can't change it. And Chairman DeHunt?
No.
You could have changed it.
Sorry, crash and burn. Look at their jaw just drop. 5 o'clock. See, they're both going to stab us now. All right, moving on to the second hearing of the public.
Oh, wait, did we need to include in that motion what month we're tabling it till?
We'll table it to next month,
Thank you.
unless they make us do a special meeting.
We don't assume.
All right, ready? Well, now and then, I'll open the next second public hearing. You have 3 minutes to speak on anything you wish to speak on. Does anyone wish to be heard? Oh, do I have to file a motion for the public hearing? No, all right. Anybody wish to be heard? Seeing none, we close the second hearing of the public, and we move on to training. Thankfully, we have none, so we will go on to commissioners' comments. We'll start with the fire marshal. Did I hear that there was a promotion involved somewhere?
Possibly, potentially. We'll find out, basically Monday night.
All right, well, good luck to you.
Civil Service approves it, and, the city administration has brought back the full chief.
All right. Very good. Well, good luck. Anything else for us?
No.
Ms. Holman?
Just that there's some upcoming trainings, citizen planner.
Point, I don't know if somebody knows when. I haven't done my research yet to see. I don't know. It looks like Mr. Lubeck maybe knows off the top of his head. Yeah, so just condolences to the family. Actually, on Tuesday, we will have a proclamation at the city council meeting, if anyone's interested in attending. Mr. Kelly's wife will be there, and I think maybe potentially one or both of his sons. So that's all I had.
Mr. Albright?
No comments this evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to take it. Ms. Hall?
Thank you, Chair. I look forward to the April meeting
where we can move the zoning ordinance to the next square.
Does
Thank
anybody
you.
believe that? Ms. Brazaszewski.
Thank you, Planning Commission. So today we tried out something new. Usually you just see projects, and you approve them with the required and recommended conditions as stated in the planner's letter. This time around, we actually discussed the recommendations. I would like to know if you favor this. It was a longer meeting. Do you favor this method? And also, I want to know, Commissioner Naylor mentioned you received Bibles. I want to know what you want in your packet submission when we engage in project reviews. I'm giving you everything, but do you just want a review letter and a site plan?
How about we all email you that?
It's up to you.
I like my
I don't know if she's wanting us all to respond right now, or...
Did you want a response right now?
Whatever you want.
All right. What do you all feel? Less, more? What's the word?
I like everything in it, and I like discussing the points as you have them listed.
Yeah, I agree, exactly. Put as much information as you can, and I like the way the format went today.
I agree with that.
I agree too.
I agree.
We have consensus.
Oh, beautiful, thank you.
No.
Thanks for the feedback.
We have acclamation.
We have acclamation by proclamation. Mr. Lalonde.
I have nothing.
Ms. Naylor?
Thank you again for the format of the information. It was easy to be prepared and highlights. Other than that, good night. Thank you.
Ms. Moody?
Nothing here. The new kid on the block, I was able to go through it very easily, and so I like the format as well. Have a good night, everyone.
Ms. Ulinski?
I have nothing.
Mr. Broll?
I've been on this commission a long time, because as Cardy was reflecting on Jim Kelly, he was the chairman when I joined, for a short period of time, and then he left, so, that's sad information to hear, so. Otherwise, glad we got these site plans out of the way, and good job, McKenna and city administration.
Mr. Lubeck?
First, my apologies to Ms. Ha for forcing her to have to come back one more time and then lie to us. With that said, my condolences to the family and friends of Jim Kelly. I knew Jim before he was a councilman. I knew him before he was mayor. He was vice chair when I joined the Planning Commission. He moved up to chair, and I became vice chair when he was elected to the Macomb County Community College Board. I became chair, and it seems like I've lived in that space ever since. So that kind of gives you an idea of how long it was. And I remember seeing Jim after he became mayor, and I referred to him as Mayor Kelly. And let you know what kind of guy he was. He looked at me and he said, "It's still Jim." So it's getting rough to have to sit here at every meeting and think of somebody that did so much for the community that has passed away.
Thank you. I want to thank Mr. Myron tonight, because Gary cares about his community. He goes out and he makes lists of rope lighting malefactors. He fights when something is not right. I would love to have 1,000 Gary Myrons in this community that actually cared enough to do something as opposed to going onto social media and bitch about it. So thank you, Mr. Myron. The only other thing I have to say is I was coming home this evening or this afternoon from Ohio, and I always come down Gratiot. And when I crossed over into 8 Mile, or crossed 8 Mile, the little ice cream place that never stays in business on the east side of the road now looks to be turning into a junk spot with cars in it. And then you go a little further down, and you have cars all over the place at the repair facilities. And then you look behind Ray's Boom Boom Room, and it looks like a demolition yard. It's disgusting. If people are taking on so much business from people that cannot pay their bills, that they are housing their vehicles until they get paid, then I don't know how they stay in business. It is an eyesore. And it degrades the value of our commercial property, let alone any residential that's around it. I would love to see us, the city, somebody, do something about that because it is disgusting. And if those vehicles aren't running and they have some sort of leak, what do we know that's going into the ground? So I would task Mr. Albright to get rid of these people or find a way to fix it. But that's my early Christmas wish.
I actually have a meeting scheduled later this month with the attorney for one of those exact properties that you just mentioned, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Most fortuitous. Being with that, do I have a motion to close the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have motion and support. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Lubeck,
Yes.
Ms. Moody,
Yes.
Ms. Naylor,
Yes.
Mr. Broll,
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde. Ms. Julinski, yes. Chairman DeHunt.
Yes. Can somebody buy a new gavel? No, but somebody must be pounding this sucker like crazy. I don't know.